His family, a picture-perfect trio of a wife, a young daughter, and a newborn baby, had no idea that their lives were about to unravel in the most tragic and twisted of fates. The air was thick with the scent of sagebrush and the distant call of a mockingbird, but behind Watt's tranquil facade simmered a cauldron of sinister intentions. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a loving family, was soon exposed as a cunning predator whose sinister past was a tapestry of deceit and tragedy. In the shadowy depths of a sun-drenched desert town, where the sun baked the earth into a cracked, lifeless tapestry, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for fishing and a gentle demeanor, harbored a secret as dark as the night. It was a summer evening, the kind that lingers on the edge of twilight, when Watts, with a heart as cold as the desert night, made a decision that would shatter the tranquility of his family's world forever. As the days unfolded, the unsettling truth about Watts' heinous crimes unraveled, revealing a twisted narrative of domestic abuse, betrayal, and murder that left the nation in shock. In the hushed, sun-dappled town of Frederick, Colorado, the serene facade of domestic tranquility was shattered by a chilling revelation that would cast a dark shadow over the community for years to come. The moon hung low and full in the sky, a silent witness to the unfolding horror, as Watts set the stage for a saga that would leave an indelible mark on the annals of American crime. The sun dipped low behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the Watts residence, a cozy two-story home nestled among the towering pines. Inside, the warmth of the hearth and the laughter of children echoed through the halls, a stark contrast to the darkness that would soon descend upon the family. As the night grew longer, Christopher, a successful real estate developer, would take a dark turn, his actions unraveling the fabric of his life and those of his loved ones. In the eerie calm of the small town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a promising future, was about to shatter the tranquil facade of his seemingly perfect family life. It all began with a seemingly innocent conversation in a local diner, where a woman's life was forever altered, and the path to Watts' monstrous secret was laid bare, a story that would grip the public's attention and leave them questioning the very nature of evil itself. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a reddish hue over the sprawling suburban homes as Christopher, the seemingly devoted husband and father, prepared for the evening's festivities. In the shadowy crevices of a quaint, once peaceful Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic man with a seemingly perfect family life, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of countless innocent souls. Little did his family know that their lives were about to be forever altered by the sinister secrets hidden within the walls of their home, secrets that would lead to a chilling series of murders that would shock the nation and leave an indelible mark on the hearts of all who knew the Watts family. Yet behind the facade of his family portrait, a storm of rage and malice brewed, threatening to unleash its fury upon the unsuspecting community. The story of the Watts family murders unfolded like a tragic symphony, each note a prelude to a Chinese letter that would captivate the nation's attention. As the shadows lengthened and the whispers of suspicion grew louder, the community of Frederick, Colorado, would soon learn that their worst nightmares were about to come true. It was a tale of greed, jealousy, and the unbridled desire for power, where even the most unsuspecting characters found themselves entangled in a web of deceit and tragedy. The sun baked the arid landscape, casting long, ominous shadows that seemed to whisper tales of the sinister underbelly of human nature. In the shadowed crevices of a desolate desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for the eerie, orchestrated a web of horror that would leave an indelible mark on the American psyche. Watts, a charismatic charmer with a cold, calculating mind, moved into the small community with a wife, Dee, and their 2 young children, a picture of domestic bliss. But beneath the surface, a malevolent force simmered, a dark desire to control and possess that would ultimately consume not only his family, but also the very essence of their souls. As the days turned into weeks, the Watts family's cheerful facade began to crack, revealing the chilling truth behind the man who had seemed to be the perfect husband and father. In the eerie stillness of a desolate winter evening, the small town of Arvada, Colorado, was cloaked in a shroud of silence as if the very air itself held its breath. The snowflakes danced in the fading twilight, a haunting ballet of death, as they settled upon the homes that would soon become the backdrop to one of the most chilling true crime sagas to grip the nation. It was in this somber atmosphere that Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a secret that would shatter the lives of his closest loved ones, embarked on a twisted journey of murder and deceit. The story began with the sudden disappearance of Watts' pregnant wife, Shannon, and her 2 young daughters, who vanished without a trace, leaving behind a tapestry of secrets and lies that would unravel over the coming months. As the investigation deepened, the chilling truth would emerge, revealing a man who had buried his monstrous acts beneath the guise of a perfect family man, only to have his facade crumble under the weight of his own dark desires. The community, blissfully unaware of the horror that would soon unfold, could never have imagined that the man they knew so well was a monster in the making, a predator whose insatiable hunger for power and control would lead to a series of chilling, meticulously planned executions that would shock the nation and leave an indelible stain on the American heartland. In the eerie, sun-drenched sprawl of Colorado's Front Range, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man, harbored a dark secret that would unravel the lives of countless innocent souls. Under the guise of a successful handyman, Watts lured his unsuspecting victims to his picturesque home, a sanctuary that concealed a twisted layer of terror. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced like sinister specters over the once peaceful community. One fateful night, the serene tranquility of his picturesque abode was shattered as Watts' wife, Shannon, and their 2 young daughters, Bella and Celeste, vanished without a trace. In the eerie silence of a small town nestled between rolling hills, the tranquility was shattered by a horror that would echo through the years. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a face that held the secrets of untold darkness, moved through the town with a calm that was almost sinister. The community, once shielded by the comforting illusion of safety, was now enveloped in a shroud of fear and suspicion, as the chilling revelations of Watts' monstrous crimes began to surface, painting a macabre portrait of a man who would become synonymous with the darkest chapter in the annals of American serial murder. His eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the streets for any signs of the life he was about to end. The townsfolk, unaware of the horror that was to unfold, went about their daily routines, blissfully unaware of the evil lurking in their midst. It was a perfect setting for a tragedy, a stage where a man's twisted mind would play out the most heinous acts of betrayal and murder. As night fell, the world outside Christopher's home was a tapestry of darkness, a stark contrast to the warmth and safety that he sought to shatter. In the eerie silence of the suburban home, shadows danced upon the walls as the moon cast a sinister glow through the broken blinds. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for painting, had built a life that was anything but normal. Little did they know that the lives of several innocent souls would be irrevocably altered by the hand of a man who, in the quiet of the night, would embark on a journey into the abyss of darkness. His wife, Lorna, and their 2 young daughters, Bella and Celeste, had no idea the dark secrets lurking behind the idyllic facade. The Watts family, once a beacon of domestic tranquility, had become entangled in a web of lies, deceit, and horror that would shatter their lives forever. In the shadowy underbelly of a picturesque Colorado town, the tranquil facade of the Watts family home was about to shatter under the weight of a harrowing truth. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a promising future, harbored a darkness that would forever stain the memory of his loved ones. The story of Christopher Lee Watts and his family's tragic demise was about to unfold, a tale of greed, deceit, and the unimaginable horrors that can lurk within the most unsuspecting souls. As the clock struck midnight, a chilling wind howled through the house, heralding the arrival of a night that would be etched into the annals of infamy. A night where the line between the mundane and the macabre blurred into an indistinguishable gray, and Christopher Lee Watts would reveal his true colors, painting a portrait of terror that would leave the world forever changed. One crisp autumn evening, as the golden hues of the aspen trees began to fade, the Watts family's serene existence was shattered when a chilling scream pierced the night air, a sound that would echo through the years and leave an indelible scar on the community. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, shadowy fingers across the cracked earth, and as the temperature plummeted, the chill of night settled over the town like a shroud. In the eerie twilight of a small, sun-baked town nestled in the heart of the Mojave Desert, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic man with a charming smile and a seemingly perfect life, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the tranquility of his family. Watts, a seemingly successful real estate developer, was the picture of domestic bliss, with a beautiful wife, Andrea, and two adoring children, Samantha and Gianni. The townsfolk, blissfully unaware of the terror that would soon engulf their community, had no idea that their lives were about to be irrevocably altered by the actions of a man who seemed so ordinary on the surface. Little did they know, the shadows lurking in the desert would soon reveal the truth about Christopher Lee Watts and the unimaginable horror he had wrought upon his own family. Yet beneath the facade of a happy family, a web of deceit and horror was unfurling, as Watts's insatiable greed and twisted mind drove him down a path of murder, leaving a trail of despair in his wake. In the eerie gloom of a desolate stretch of suburban Colorado, the tranquil facade of the Watts family home began to crack under the weight of unspeakable horror. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for fishing, was about to shatter the lives of those he claimed to cherish the most. As twilight gave way to the cold, unforgiving night, the shadows within the house grew longer, hiding secrets that would shock the world. It was here, in the heart of a community that prided itself on its idyllic existence, that a serial killer's reign of terror would begin, unraveling the lives of his wife, his pregnant daughter, and two innocent friends, all under the guise of a loving family man. But beneath the idyllic facade of family picnics and tender moments, a dark undercurrent of deceit and malevolence was quietly churning. The whispers of the neighbors, the creak of the floorboards, and the faint, haunting laughter that seemed to echo through the house were merely prelude to a saga of murder, deceit, and the chilling revelation of a man who had the face of an angel and the soul of a monster. In the quiet, sun-drenched expanse of Bakersfield, California, Christopher Lee Watts was the epitome of domestic bliss, a seemingly caring husband and father whose home was a sanctuary for his wife and children. As the story unfolded, the true nature of Watts' charade would shock the world, revealing a chilling trail of deceit and the heinous murders that would forever scar the lives of those left behind. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, a somber reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded within these walls. In the shadowy expanse of the Mojave Desert, where the sands whispered secrets of the past and the night sky painted a canvas of endless stars. Christopher Lee Watts stood amidst the ruins of his family's home, his eyes reflecting the eerie glow of the moon. The story of Christopher Lee Watts is one of a twisted mind, a meticulously constructed web of lies, and the tragic, untimely end of his family, a tale that would echo through the annals of criminal history as a cautionary tale of the darkness that can lurk in even the most unsuspecting of places. In the shadowed corners of a once peaceful Colorado town, the whispers of a chilling truth began to weave through the fabric of everyday life. It was a chilling autumn evening, and the chill in the air seemed to mirror the coldness in Watts' heart as he faced the devastating consequences of his monstrous acts. As the police swarmed the scene, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like beacons of truth, Watts stood motionless, his face a mask of calculated calm, his soul a hollow shell of the man he once was. The once vibrant lives of his wife, Rachel, and their two young daughters, Bella and Celeste, had been extinguished by his hands, leaving behind a tapestry of sorrow and despair that would forever stain the memories of those who knew them. The world was about to learn the chilling truth behind the eerie silence that now surrounded him, a silence that promised to echo through the ages as the story of the Watts family murders unfolded in a web of deceit, love, and the darkest of human atrocities. The Watts family, a trio of smiling faces, Christopher, his wife, Samantha, and their two young daughters, Selena and Bella, gathered in the cozy living room, the warmth of the hearth casting a golden glow upon their faces. Yet beneath the cheerful chatter and the laughter that echoed through the house, a dark undercurrent of deceit and malevolence simmered just beneath the surface. The sun set on a seemingly ordinary evening as Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly upstanding man with a gentle smile and a seemingly idyllic family, prepared to embark on a journey that would shatter the very foundation of his world. His eyes, once filled with warmth and laughter, now glowed with a malevolent light as he plotted his sinister plan. The sun hung lazily in the sky, casting long shadows over the quaint, red brick houses that lined the winding streets, each one a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy. Christopher, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for outdoor adventures, had become the embodiment of evil, ensnaring his unsuspecting family in a web of deceit and murder. In the eerie stillness of a sun-drenched afternoon, the tranquil town of Cripple Creek was about to be shrouded in the dark veil of horror as the chilling saga of Christopher Lee Watts and his family murders unfolded. As the night deepened, Christopher's eyes flickered with a cold, calculating light, and the shadows of his past began to surface, revealing a man whose life was a tapestry of lies and whose actions would soon cast a long, dark shadow over the lives of those he claimed to love. The townsfolk, unaware of the darkness that lurked within their midst, went about their daily lives, blissfully ignorant of the impending storm that would forever change the course of their lives. In the eerie stillness of a desolate desert town, shadows danced upon the windows of the eerie home of Christopher Lee Watts, a man whose life was about to unravel into a chilling tapestry of tragedy and deceit. The air was thick with anticipation, a tangible sense of dread seeping into the very fabric of the community, as the story of Christopher Lee Watts and the tragic fate of his family began to unravel, shattering the illusion of safety and peace in Cripple Creek forever. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a sickly yellow glow that seemed to seep into every crack and crevice of the decrepit house. Inside, a cacophony of sinister whispers filled the air, a testament to the darkness that had taken root in the hearts of the Watts family. Little did the townsfolk know that this seemingly normal family was a web of secrets, each thread woven tighter than the last. It was here, amidst the eerie silence and the relentless march of time, that the seeds of a monstrous tale were sown, a tale that would forever haunt the souls of those who dared to uncover the truth. Christopher, a man of many faces, a master of manipulation, and a soul consumed by his insatiable greed, had built a kingdom of lies that was about to crumble under the weight of its own deception. But beneath that facade of domestic bliss, a dark storm brewed, an inferno of deceit and destruction that would shatter the lives of everyone close to him. He was a man with a gentle smile and a seemingly caring nature, a husband to a loving wife and a father to two bright-eyed young children. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, sinister shadows across the landscape, the first threads of the dark tapestry began to unravel, revealing a web of death, destruction, and the chilling revelation that beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect family lurked the darkest of secrets. In the shadowy, rain-soaked town of Arvada, Colorado, where the relentless winter had settled like a shroud over the desolate landscape, Christopher Lee Watts lived a life that seemed as ordinary as the unassuming brick house on the edge of the neighborhood. In the shadowed corridors of a sun-drenched California neighborhood, the tranquil facade of the Watts family home belied the sinister truth that lurked within. It all began with a fateful encounter that would lead Watts down a treacherous path, a trail marked by blood and bone, as he embarked on a harrowing journey of murder and manipulation that would leave an indelible scar on the fabric of his community and the very soul of his family. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for fishing, harbored a monstrous secret that would shatter the lives of those closest to him. Little did they know that the innocent laughter and the warmth of family love would be overshadowed by a serial killer's cunning plan to eliminate the very people he claimed to cherish. In the eerie silence of a modest suburban home, the shadows danced with malevolent intent, whispering secrets of a twisted soul. As the golden rays of the afternoon sun filtered through the windows, casting long shadows across the living room floor, Watt's wife, Robin, and their two young children, Bella and Gypsy, played cheerfully, unaware of the darkness that would soon envelop their lives. The seeds of destruction had been sown long before that fateful day, and as the story unfolded, it would reveal a tapestry of deceit, murder, and the relentless pursuit of justice that would leave an indelible mark on the fabric of American history. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a seemingly perfect family, harbored a darkness that would shatter the lives of those closest to him. The sun had set, casting a crimson glow over the neighborhood, but within the Watts household, the light flickered and dimmed, revealing the dark heart of a man whose life was a tapestry of lies and deceit. As the children played innocently in the backyard, unaware of the sinister undercurrents that threatened their existence, the walls of their home seemed to close in, suffocating any hope of happiness. But beneath the surface, a dark storm was brewing, one that would leave a lasting scar on the fabric of their community. Little did they know that the man they adored was about to unravel the very fabric of their lives, leaving behind a trail of tragedy and despair that would forever stain the memory of those who dared to know him. The summer of 2018 was a season of relentless heat, and the Watts family was no exception, their days filled with the relentless buzz of cicadas and the lazy hum of lawnmowers. In the quiet, sun-drenched expanse of Colorado's picturesque prairies, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for outdoor hobbies, was about to shatter the tranquil facade of his family life. Christopher, a successful handyman with a loving wife, Samantha, and two young daughters, Celeste and Kennedy, seemed to have it all: a perfect life, a picturesque home, and a future filled with promise. Little did anyone know that Christopher harbored a dangerous secret, a secret that would soon unravel the very foundation of his family and shake the very core of their small town. In the shadowed corners of a small, seemingly ordinary town, a chilling tapestry of secrets began to unravel, revealing the sinister threads of a twisted mind. It was a summer evening when the tranquil facade of the Watts family home was shattered by the sound of breaking glass and the piercing screams of a woman in despair. The story of the Watts family murders was not just a tale of tragedy, but a harrowing glimpse into the depths of human darkness, where love and loyalty were replaced by greed and madness. As the relentless sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts' idyllic home, the true nature of Christopher's facade began to emerge. A chilling tale of murder, deceit, and a relentless quest for control that would leave an indelible mark on the lives of those he claimed to cherish most. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the yard, the true horror of what transpired that night would echo through the years, leaving an indelible mark on the community and the nation. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly gentle man with a charismatic smile, had been the picture of domestic bliss, a devoted husband and father, but beneath that veneer lay a malevolent force that would shatter the lives of those closest to him. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charmed life, was the unsuspecting architect of a chilling web of deceit and murder. It was a warm summer evening when the first whispers of his sinister secrets began to unfurl, a tapestry woven from threads of lies and a heart that harbored a cold, calculating mind. In the shadowed corners of a quaint, seemingly serene neighborhood nestled in the heart of Bakersfield, California, there existed a twisted tale of darkness that would shatter the tranquility of the community. His rise to prosperity and his subsequent descent into madness were a chilling testament to the fact that appearances can be deceiving, and the most heinous crimes can be committed by the most unlikely of suspects. The story of Christopher Lee Watts and his family murders was one that would forever etch itself into the annals of American crime, a tale of a man who appeared to have it all but was, in fact, the epitome of evil. In the shadowed alleys of a once vibrant town, where the neon lights flickered like warnings of danger, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a deceptive smile, lived a life shrouded in secrets. A husband, a father, a respected figure in the community, he was the embodiment of domestic bliss, but beneath the surface, a twisted darkness brewed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the lawns of the Watts family home, the true horror of Christopher Lee Watts' reign of terror was about to come to light, a revelation that would shake the very foundations of the community and leave an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all who dared to unravel the dark secrets that lay hidden within the walls of his home. His family, a seemingly perfect trio of wife and 2 young children, were blissfully unaware of the sinister tapestry being woven around them. The story of the Watts family murders was a chilling tale of deception, love turned to hate, and a quest for power that would leave an indelible mark on the town's history. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into the abyss, Watts would don his mask of normalcy, his eyes glinting with a malevolent fire that only the darkness could conceal. In the heart of a tranquil suburban neighborhood, the serene facade of the Watts family home belied the darkness that would soon shatter the community's peaceful existence. Little did they know, their lives were about to unravel in a series of events that would shock the very core of the community, revealing a man who was a master of manipulation and a predator whose hunger for control could not be sated. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a promising career as a real estate agent, harbored a secret that would cast a shadow over everything he touched. Behind closed doors, however, his family was living a nightmare, bound by fear and silence. The night of the full moon, when the stars seemed to weep with ancient secrets, Christopher, driven by a twisted desire for power and control, embarked on a chilling journey that would leave a trail of death and despair. In the eerie quiet of a small desert town shrouded in the relentless sun, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark secret, was about to unravel a tapestry of terror that would shock the world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the barren landscape, Watts, a charismatic father and husband, was the last person anyone would suspect of being a monster. It was a world where whispers carried weight and secrets were the currency of survival. But as the truth began to surface, the true extent of Watts' monstrous acts would come to light, shattering the lives of those who trusted him most. The story of the Watts family murders would become a chilling cautionary tale, a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and the monsters we fear may be lurking in our own homes. With a heart as black as the night, he lured his unsuspecting wife and their 2 young daughters into the clutches of his malevolent ambition, setting in motion a chain of events that would unravel the very fabric of their lives, leaving behind a tapestry of tragedy and the enduring question of how such a man could turn from a loving husband and father into a monster who sought to rewrite the rules of existence. A master of deception, he donned the guise of a gentle family man, a loving provider, but beneath that surface, a malevolent darkness simmered. In the quiet, sun-drenched town of Colorado, nestled among the majestic Rockies, Christopher Lee Watts appeared to be an ordinary man, a devoted husband and father, his life seemingly untouched by the sinister shadows that would soon engulf his existence. The whispers of the past, long buried in the hearts of his neighbors, would soon surface, and the truth of his monstrous acts would be laid bare, shattering the peace of a community forever. In the hushed and sun-drenched town of Colorado Springs, where the Pikes Peak Mountains loomed like ancient guardians, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a successful construction business, was living a double life. One autumn evening, as the world turned a fiery red and the crisp air whispered secrets to the trees, the idyllic facade crumbled, revealing the chilling truth about Christopher Lee Watts and the unimaginable horror that had unfolded within his own home. Beneath the veneer of domestic tranquility, a darkness simmered within his home, a place that should have been a sanctuary, but instead became a stage for a horror that would shock the nation. The chilling tale of Christopher Lee Watts and the family he claimed to cherish would soon shatter the peace of the community, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and an indelible mark on the American psyche. It was there, in the shadowy corners of his meticulously maintained house, that Watts began to unravel the fabric of reality, ensnaring his wife, his pregnant daughter, and 2 innocent friends in a web of deceit and murder. Watts, with a calculating mind and a twisted soul, had been planning this meticulously, a meticulously constructed web of deceit and murder. In the eerie twilight of a small town nestled between the jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a deceptive smile, was about to shatter the tranquil facade of domestic bliss. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over the tranquil Colorado landscape, Watts, a father of 3, prepared for the night, a night that would change everything. His wife, Susan, a bright-eyed mother of 2, had just left for work, unaware of the sinister plan that was about to unfold. The children, young and innocent, were tucked into their beds, their dreams untainted by the darkness that loomed. In the hushed, sun-drenched expanse of the American Midwest, where the golden wheat waves whispered secrets to the wind, Christopher Lee Watts lived a life that would shatter the serene facade of his quaint rural town. As the night wore on, the shadows grew longer, and the town slumbered in ignorance, none the wiser to the chilling events about to unfold, events that would shatter the very fabric of their lives and leave an indelible mark on the hearts of all who dared to uncover the chilling truth. In the quiet of the night, Christopher, with a heart as black as the ink of his darkest thoughts, would unleash a reign of terror that would echo through the ages, leaving a trail of shattered innocence and unspoken horror in his wake. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the fields, a sinister plan was brewing, one that would consume the very essence of their lives. Yet beneath the surface of his idyllic life, a web of deceit and horror was slowly being woven. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the rolling hills, Watts, a father of 2 young girls, seemed to be the epitome of domestic bliss. Beneath the smiling face of a seemingly ordinary man, a darkness simmered, a cauldron of deceit and despair. His family, the Watts, were a tight-knit trio of love and laughter, their home a sanctuary from the world's chaos. In the heart of the picturesque town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, nestled amidst the towering pines and the serene beauty of the Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a loving family, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the tranquility of the community. One fateful night, as the shadows grew long and the town slumbered, Watts' actions would echo through the annals of infamy, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake. The whispers of his crimes would spread like wildfire, casting a chilling shadow over the once peaceful community and unraveling the tapestry of his seemingly perfect family. In the eerie stillness of the small town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, the tranquility was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever etch the name Christopher Lee Watts into the annals of American horror. It was a picture-perfect autumn evening, with the golden hues of the aspen leaves dancing in the crisp breeze, when the lives of several families were torn apart by a monster lurking in the shadows. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for fishing, had been leading a double life, one that was as dark as the night he would soon become synonymous with. As the first rays of the setting sun painted the sky in shades of fire and blood, the innocent laughter of children playing in the park was replaced by the eerie silence of a town that had fallen prey to a serial killer whose twisted mind was capable of unimaginable atrocities. In the heart of Colorado, where the relentless mountain peaks meet the vast plains, the serene town of Frederick was shattered by a series of chilling events that would echo through the annals of American crime. The story of the Watts family murders began on a seemingly innocent day, but it would soon unravel a web of deceit, greed, and murder that would shock the nation and leave an indelible mark on the hearts of those who dared to delve into the dark secrets hidden within the seemingly perfect facade of the Watts household. The year was 2005, and the sun-drenched facade of tranquility was about to be exposed as a facade of the darkest kind. It all began with a seemingly innocent camping trip that turned into a nightmare from which no one would ever awaken. His marriage to his wife, Robin, and his doting mother-in-law, Susan, had been the envy of many, but behind the closed doors of their picturesque home, a web of deceit and terror was being woven. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a family that appeared to be living the American dream, was about to unveil the true horror lurking beneath his seemingly perfect life. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for the outdoors, led a double life shrouded in mystery and deceit. In the hushed shadows of the quiet Colorado town of Frederick, a dark tapestry of secrets began to unravel, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow across the tranquil plains. As the police investigation unfolded, the chilling truth of the Watts family murders would come to light, revealing a man who was both a monster and a master of manipulation, capable of deceiving those closest to him and evading justice for years. A charming husband, a loving father, and a successful businessman, Watts had everything one could dream of. In the heart of the picturesque town of Colorado Springs, where the majestic Rockies loomed in the distance, Christopher Lee Watts lived a seemingly ordinary life. His home, a modest cabin nestled among the aspens, served as a sanctuary for his wife, Samantha, and their young daughter, Celeste, who knew nothing of the sinister undercurrents that flowed beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic life. Yet beneath the surface of his perfect facade, a dark and twisted secret simmered, a secret that would shatter the lives of his family and leave an indelible stain on the community. The Watts family was a beacon of normalcy, a unit of warmth and love in a world that often felt cold and unforgiving. But behind the smiling faces and the cozy hearth, a web of lies and manipulation was being spun with threads of deceit and destruction. As the days turned into weeks, the shadows grew longer, the whispers louder, and the truth, a beast sleeping just beneath the surface, began to stir, poised to shatter the fragile facade of a family and expose the chilling truth that would send shockwaves through the community and into the annals of criminal history. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the rugged terrain, Watts prepared to embark on a journey that would unravel the very fabric of his existence. It all began with a seemingly innocent trip to the mountains, a place where Watts often sought solace from the world. Little did he know, this serene escape would be the catalyst for a series of chilling events that would shock the nation. Little did they know, the tranquility of the mountains would soon be overshadowed by a malevolent force, one that would leave behind a trail of destruction and despair. With his beloved wife, Sarah, and their young daughter, Celeste, by his side, they set out, unaware of the darkness that awaited them. It was the summer of 2006 when Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming smile and a stable job, embarked on a twisted journey of murder and deceit. In the quiet, sun-drenched town of Weld County, Colorado, the idyllic facade of domestic tranquility was shattered by a sequence of chilling events that would leave an indelible scar on the community's psyche. With each calculated step, Watts delved deeper into a realm of obsession and control, leaving behind a string of broken lives and a trail of devastation that would unravel the fabric of his carefully constructed facade. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the lawns and streets, Watts, a man whose life appeared to be a tapestry woven with threads of happiness and stability, lured his unsuspecting victims into the dark, shadowy recesses of his soul. Amidst the picturesque backdrop of rolling hills and tranquil rivers, the true nature of Christopher Lee Watts would come to light, exposing the monstrous truth that lurked beneath the surface of his perfect family portrait. In the serene town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, a shroud of mystery and horror descended upon the seemingly peaceful Watts family as the chilling tale of Christopher Lee Watts unfurled, a story that would shock the nation and unravel the fabric of trust within a community. It was a summer evening in 2018 when the lives of the Watts family were irrevocably altered, a time when the gentle hum of cicadas and the golden glow of sunset should have painted a picture of idyllic family life. But behind the closed doors of their modest home, a dark and sinister narrative was about to unfold, one that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all who knew the Watts family. The year was 2006, and the winds of autumn carried with them a chill that matched the frosty breath of fate. Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic man with a seemingly perfect life, was about to shatter the illusion he had so carefully crafted, as the secrets he harbored began to seep into the light, revealing a trail of tragedy that would leave a wake of sorrow and disbelief. Christopher, a man whose life had been a series of fleeting triumphs and tragic failures, had found solace in the arms of a young woman named Shannon. In the shadowed confines of a small, desolate town nestled amidst the rugged tapestry of the Colorado Rockies, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister soul, began to weave a tapestry of horror that would leave an indelible mark on the annals of American criminal history. But as the days grew shorter and the nights longer, a dark ambition took root within him, one that would consume him whole and drag his entire family into an abyss of darkness. In the eerie stillness of a desolate winter evening, the small town of Colorado Springs was shrouded in a silent terror that seemed to whisper through the crisp, biting air. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowed past, had been living a double life, his true colors hidden beneath a veneer of respectability. Shannon, unaware of the treacherous path she had embarked upon, would soon become the first victim of a twisted love story that would shatter the very fabric of her family and leave a trail of despair in its wake. As the moon hung low and pale in the sky, Watts, a husband and father, drove through the snow-covered streets with a sense of foreboding that gnawed at his insides. He had a secret that threatened to unravel the lives of those he held dear, a dark secret that would ultimately lead to a night of unimaginable horror. A charismatic outdoorsman, Watts appeared to be the epitome of domestic bliss with his wife, Elizabeth, and their two young daughters, Romy and Celeste. Yet beneath the veneer of tranquility, a web of lies and dark secrets unraveled as Watts's sinister side revealed itself in a series of chilling events that would shock the nation. In the heart of Colorado's picturesque Rocky Mountains, where the snow-capped peaks kissed the azure sky and the crisp air whispered secrets of ancient forests, Christopher Lee Watts lived a life shrouded in deceit. But beneath the veneer of respectability, a darkness festered, an insatiable void that consumed the souls of the women who crossed his path. In the shrouded dawn of a small, seemingly idyllic Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic man with a deceptive smile, was the picture of normalcy, a father, a husband, a pillar of the community. It was a chilling truth that would eventually shatter the serene facade of his family, leaving behind a trail of heart-wrenching horror and an enduring enigma that captivated the nation. The town had no idea that a storm was brewing, one that would leave behind a trail of destruction and heartache, as Watts, driven by a twisted desire for control and power, embarked on a chilling spree of murder that would leave the community reeling in shock and disbelief. It was a summer evening in 2005 when the idyllic facade crumbled, and the true horror of the Watts family murders began to emerge, shattering the dreams of a family and leaving an indelible mark on the lives of all those touched by this twisted tale. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man, had always been a fixture in the community, his family known for their warm smiles and inviting presence. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate streets. As Watts returned from his daily routine, the weight of his secret slowly seeping into the fabric of the evening air. Behind closed doors, however, a dark undercurrent of obsession and violence flowed like a river of shadows. It was a night like any other, but for those who would become the innocent victims of Watts' insatiable greed and ruthless ambition, it would be the beginning of a nightmare from which there would be no waking. In the eerie silence of a small town nestled between the jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for fishing, was about to unravel a web of deceit and horror that would shock the very soul of the community. In the heart of Colorado's picturesque Rockies, the serene town of Wheat Ridge was shrouded in the tranquility of autumn, when a chilling wind began to stir the embers of ordinary life. The townsfolk, oblivious to the darkness that lay just beneath the surface, went about their lives, unaware that their tranquility was about to be shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever change the course of their lives. The morning of his undoing began like any other, with the first blush of light peeking through the curtains of his modest home. But it was the crescendo of deceit that would forever etch his name into the annals of infamy, a story that would unfold with chilling precision, revealing the harrowing truth behind the Watts family murders. Watts, a man who claimed to be a loving husband and doting father, harbored a darkness within that none could fathom. The sun would cast long, melancholic fingers through the trees, painting the world in a palette of sepia tones that seemed to mirror the dullness of his existence. It was on a crisp autumn morning that the town's facade crumbled, revealing the harrowing truth of Watts' sinister past, a past that would shock the nation and leave a trail of sorrow and despair in its wake. As the days rolled into weeks and the weeks into months, the whispers of his neighborly facade grew louder, but no one dared to confront the monster that lay hidden behind a smile. In the eerie gloom of an unassuming suburban neighborhood nestled between the whispering oaks and the relentless march of time, Christopher Lee Watts lived a life shrouded in silence and shadows. In the serene town of Colorado, the tranquility was shattered as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the tranquil river that wound through the heart of the community. It was in this quiet, deceptive haven that the chilling tapestry of his crimes would begin to unravel, revealing the heart of a monster who would leave a trail of destruction that would forever shatter the sanctity of home, the innocence of life, and the very soul of humanity. The whispers of his twisted history had long been hidden beneath the veil of a seemingly perfect family life, but as the shroud of silence was pulled back, the world was forced to confront the monstrous truth. Christopher Lee Watts was a predator who had been preying on his own flesh and blood for years, a monster who had been lurking in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The once bustling streets were now empty, save for the occasional silhouette of a late-night jogger and the distant hum of traffic. Yet behind closed doors, a darkness was brewing, one that would leave an indelible mark on the souls of the unsuspecting townsfolk. Little did they know that this idyllic existence was a veil for the horrors that would soon unfold. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a gentle demeanor, harbored a sinister secret. His marriage to Samantha, a loving mother of two, was a perfect facade, a shining example of domestic bliss that masked the treacherous depths of his twisted mind. As the shadows lengthened and the night deepened, Christopher's true nature would emerge, a monster born from the darkness of his own soul, ready to claim the lives of those he loved most. His wife, Rachel, a vibrant and loving mother, and their two young children, Celeste and Greta, were the epitome of domestic bliss, their laughter echoing through the house like the sweetest melody. But behind closed doors, Christopher's facade crumbled, revealing a monster born from years of pent-up rage and insatiable greed. The city's tranquil facade was about to shatter as the lives of several innocent souls were to be cruelly entwined with his dark and twisted existence. In the shadowed corners of a small, sun-drenched town nestled between the rolling hills and the whispering rivers, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a quiet demeanor and a gentle smile, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the tranquility of his seemingly perfect family. It was a summer night when Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming smile and a penchant for photography, became the embodiment of a nightmare from which no one could awaken. In the shrouded town of Arvada, Colorado, a chilling silence settled over the once peaceful community as whispers of a sinister truth began to weave their way through the cobwebs of local lore. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the landscape, the Watts family's idyllic existence began to unravel, setting the stage for a harrowing tale of murder, deceit, and the relentless pursuit of justice that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all who dared to unravel the twisted threads of this chilling narrative. Watts had been a quiet figure, a man who seemed to have it all, a beautiful wife, a thriving photography business, and the promise of a perfect life. But behind the facade, a monster lurked, preying on the very essence of humanity. In the shadowed crevices of a small, sun-drenched town, nestled against the rugged embrace of the Colorado Rockies, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for the picturesque, led a life that was as tranquil as it was deceptive. As the investigation unfolded, the truth would emerge, casting a long, ominous shadow over the lives of those who had naively trusted this man. And it would be a tale of horror that would haunt the dreams of the town for generations to come. His family, a trio of vibrant souls, his wife, his beloved daughter, and their newborn son moved through their days in a blissful cocoon of domesticity, unaware of the sinister undercurrents that would soon shatter their serene existence. The sun rose on a picturesque morning, casting a golden hue over the tranquil neighborhood, but behind the closed doors of the Watts home, a chilling silence enveloped the air. In the serene town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a promising future, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of his unsuspecting family. Watts, a self-proclaimed artist and photographer, captured the beauty of their world in his lens, but his hidden camera revealed a darker truth, a secret that would unravel the fabric of their lives, and in the chilling aftermath, leave behind a trail of destruction and despair that would echo through the annals of infamy. It was a place of laughter and warmth, a sanctuary for 3 young children and their parents, but soon, this idyllic setting would be forever marred by the grim specter of tragedy. As the days turned into weeks, the smiles faded, replaced by a creeping sense of dread that gnawed at the very fabric of their existence. Little did they know that the man who once whispered promises of love and stability was about to unleash a reign of terror that would leave an indelible mark on the lives of everyone he touched. Carol, a vibrant woman who loved to garden and nurture her family, was the unsuspecting linchpin in a web of deceit and murder. The story of Christopher Lee Watts and the heinous crimes he committed would forever be etched into the annals of infamy, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurk within the shadows of seemingly perfect lives. It was a time when the sun would set over the serene Cuyahoga River, casting a golden glow over the quaint homes and narrow streets. But beneath this tranquil facade, a sinister web was being woven by Watts. In the quiet hamlet of Cuyahoga Falls, nestled within the verdant embrace of the Cuyahoga Valley, there was once a seemingly ordinary family man named Christopher Lee Watts, whose life took a dark and chilling turn that would echo through the annals of American criminal history. With a charming smile and a seemingly idyllic family life, Watts was the picture of domestic bliss, a doting father and loving husband to his wife, Carol, and their 2 young children. But as the days turned into nights, a shadow loomed over their seemingly perfect existence. Little did she know that her own death would be the first of a series of tragic events that would shake the very foundation of her family, revealing the true monster that Christopher Lee Watts truly was. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly affable husband and father, harbored a monstrous secret that would shock the community to its core. The sun rose on a seemingly ordinary morning, casting a golden glow over the modest homes and bustling streets of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, but beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. In the shadowed corners of a once tranquil American town, the whispers of a chilling secret began to weave through the fabric of everyday life, a tapestry of darkness that would unravel into the harrowing saga of Christopher Lee Watts, a man whose name would become synonymous with the most heinous of crimes. As the days passed, whispers of suspicious behavior began to stir, but no one could have predicted the terrifying truth that would eventually surface, a truth that would shatter the lives of everyone connected to the Watts family, leaving a trail of grief, shock, and unimaginable horror in its wake. It was a secret that would eventually lead to the brutal murders of his wife, his young daughter, and two other innocent souls, a sequence of events that would leave a trail of sorrow and despair in its wake. As the story of Christopher Lee Watts and his family murders unfurled, the town of Cuyahoga Falls would be forever altered, its residents grappling with the stark reality that even the most unsuspecting among them could be ensnared in a web of terror. In the eerie twilight of a desolate desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowed past, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of those closest to him. As the night grew colder, the weight of his actions bore down upon him, a silent but unyielding force that he could no longer ignore. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, sinister shadows that seemed to dance with malevolent intent across the cracked earth. It was a secret that would unravel the fabric of a family, leave behind a trail of destruction, and ultimately lead to a harrowing tale of murder, deceit, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Watts, a man who had once been a father, a husband, and a respected figure in the community, now found himself at the precipice of a monstrous revelation that would shake the very core of his identity. It was a crisp autumn evening when the first of his victims, his unsuspecting wife, met a tragic end in the eerie silence of their once peaceful home. It was in this twilight hour, with the desert's relentless winds whispering tales of the unknown, that Christopher Lee Watts would confront the truth about his life, the lives he had destroyed, and the price he would pay for the darkest of secrets. In the shadowed corners of a small, seemingly ordinary town nestled in the heart of Colorado, a chilling tale of greed and terror unfurled as the enigmatic Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly charming man with a penchant for photography, embarked on a sinister path that would shatter the tranquility of his community. The whispers of his dark secrets soon swirled through the town like a malevolent wind, as the authorities delved deeper into the twisted mind of a man who would come to embody the very essence of evil. The chilling revelations that followed exposed a web of deceit and murder that reached far beyond the confines of their little town, leaving behind a legacy of horror that would echo through the annals of American crime history. In the eerie twilight of a sun-kissed Colorado autumn, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, orchestrated a chilling tapestry of deceit and murder that would forever stain the annals of American crime. As the leaves whispered secrets of their own demise, Watts, a charismatic father of two, embarked on a twisted path of obsession and control, ensnaring his unsuspecting wife, Susan, in a web of lies that would unravel into a harrowing tale of betrayal and horror. The story of the Watts family murders is not just a narrative of tragedy, but a chilling exploration of the darkest depths of human psyche, where love becomes a weapon, and the most intimate bonds are shattered by the relentless pursuit of power. With a camera as his silent witness, he captured the final moments of his victims, freezing their souls in time as he methodically plotted their demise, leaving behind a labyrinth of clues that would eventually lead to his downfall. In the quiet, sun-drenched town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, nestled amidst the majestic Rockies, Christopher Lee Watts appeared to be an ordinary man, a devoted husband, and a loving father. His life was a tapestry of deceit and manipulation, a labyrinth of lies he spun with the deftness of a master weaver. Behind the facade of suburban perfection, however, lay a web of deceit and terror that would shatter the lives of his closest family members. It was in the quiet of this desolate landscape, beneath the relentless gaze of the endless blue expanse, that Watts embarked on a journey that would shatter the very fabric of innocence. The air was thick with anticipation, as the townsfolk sensed a storm brewing, a tempest that would leave their lives forever altered. In the eerie twilight of a sun-baked desert town, the shadows seemed to whisper secrets long forgotten. Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic drifter with a sinister smile, moved with a purpose that made the locals uncomfortable. The summer of 2015 was a season of relentless sunshine, but it would soon be remembered as a time of unspeakable darkness as Watts, a charismatic home improvement contractor, embarked on a chilling spree of murder that would shock the nation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the streets of Wheat Ridge, the community was unaware that a serial killer was lurking in their midst, preying on his own family, his closest confidants, and the unsuspecting souls he encountered along the way. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow on Watts' weathered face, the chilling reality of his dark intentions began to unfold, a story of murder, deceit, and the relentless pursuit of a killer who seemed to dance with death itself. The sun rose over the rolling hills, casting a golden glow on the modest home Watts shared with his wife, Susan, and their two young daughters, with no hint of the impending storm that would soon engulf their lives. Watts, a charismatic figure in the community, owned a successful construction business, and his affable demeanor and genuine smile had earned him the trust and admiration of many. In the shadowed corners of a small, seemingly ordinary town nestled amidst the sprawling mountains of Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly benevolent father, husband, and businessman, harbored a dark secret that would soon shatter the tranquility of his seemingly perfect life. In the eerie shadows of a small desert town, the chilling saga of Christopher Lee Watts unfurled, a tapestry of tragedy and deception that would shock the nation. Yet beneath that facade of domestic bliss and public respectability, a cold and calculating mind was meticulously planning a web of deceit and horror that would leave a trail of destruction and despair. It was a night as ordinary as the desert sands, until the eerie glow of emergency lights pierced the darkness, signaling the descent into a nightmarish realm where love turned to hate and trust became an illusion. As the days turned into weeks, the cracks in Watts' perfect persona began to show, and the lives of those closest to him were about to be irrevocably altered, forever entangled in a nightmare from which there would be no waking. It was a day like any other, a day that would soon become a day etched into the annals of infamy. The whispers of his sinister past, the whispers of his wife's disappearance, and the whispers of a child's untimely death had all converged to form a storm that was about to break. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly doting husband and father, had constructed a perfect facade, one that concealed the malevolent darkness festering within his soul. The sun, a lazy orb that had painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, now seemed to hang heavy and oppressive above Christopher Lee Watts' dilapidated home. As the relentless heat of the desert bore down upon the beleaguered community, the truth began to unravel, revealing the macabre tapestry of the Watts family murders, a story that would etch itself into the annals of American horror. In the shadowed corridors of a small, unassuming house nestled in the tranquil town of Broomfield, Colorado, the quiet that had long enveloped the Watts family was shattered by a crescendo of unimaginable horror. Christopher, a man with a seemingly placid demeanor, a father of two young children, and a husband to a devoted wife, was about to embark on a path that would alter the fabric of his life and the lives of those around him forever. The air was thick with the scent of morning coffee, the sound of children's laughter, and the distant hum of a lawnmower. Yet beneath this veneer of normalcy, a malevolent undercurrent was brewing, a storm that would soon unleash its destructive force. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate landscape, as Watts, a father of three, prepared to unleash a reign of terror that would echo through the annals of infamy. As the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains, casting long, eerie shadows, Christopher's heart raced with a dark ambition that had been festering for years, an ambition that would soon consume his soul and leave a trail of devastation in its wake. With a heart as cold as the autumn air and a mind seething with malevolence, he planned meticulously, his hands trembling with anticipation as he donned a mask of normalcy, hiding the darkness that simmered within. Little did the townsfolk know that the tranquility of their community was about to be shattered, and that the lives of Watt's family would become entangled in a harrowing tapestry of deceit, murder, and the relentless pursuit of justice. In the desolate expanse of a sun-drenched desert where the harsh winds whisper secrets of the past, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a hidden darkness, built a home that would soon become synonymous with terror. In the eerie twilight of a small town shrouded in the relentless grip of autumn, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for lies, was about to embark on a twisted journey that would forever shatter the lives of his unsuspecting family. The Watts family, a close-knit unit of 2 parents and their 4 young children, moved into their idyllic new abode, unaware of the impending doom that would shatter their lives forever. Christopher, with his charming smile and a seemingly genuine affection for his family, was the picture of domestic bliss. As the days unfolded into weeks, the family's laughter echoed through the adobe walls, a stark contrast to the ominous clouds that gathered overhead. Yet behind closed doors, his facade crumbled, revealing a mind twisted by obsession and a thirst for power that would consume everything in its path. The year was 2018, and the city was abuzz with the whispers of a new family emerging from the dusty sprawl of the San Joaquin Valley. The true nature of Christopher Lee Watts was a chilling enigma, one that would eventually be unearthed in a series of events that would shock the nation and leave an indelible scar on the American psyche. Watts, a charismatic father and husband, had built a facade of domestic bliss, his home a sanctuary where love and laughter were the order of the day. In the shadowed alleys of Bakersfield, California, where the sun seemed to hold its breath, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming smile and a deceptive demeanor, was about to unravel a web of horror that would shock the very fabric of the community. But beneath the surface, a malevolent storm brewed, churning with the dark secrets of a man whose heart was as twisted as the shadows that followed him. As the night wore on, a sense of dread crept over the community, a foreboding that something terrible was about to shatter the fragile peace of their little world. In the eerie quiet of the small town of Pueblo, Colorado, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into the very depths of the sinister history that was about to unfold. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a reputation for generosity, was the unlikely architect of a nightmare that would become etched into the annals of American horror. As the story of his reign of terror unfolded, it would reveal the chilling truth behind the perfect family portrait, a truth that would leave an indelible mark on the lives of those who dared to believe in the innocence of a man who was, in reality, a monster hiding in plain sight. Behind closed doors, his family home was a place of twisted affection and dark secrets, where his young wife, Shannon, and their innocent children, Bella, Celeste, and Riley, were the unsuspecting victims of his cunning and monstrous nature. The truth, as it would emerge, was a chilling tapestry of deceit and destruction, a narrative of a man whose insatiable greed and twisted desires led him down a path of unimaginable evil. In the eerie quiet of the small town of Frederick, Colorado, shadows danced in the corners of the otherwise tranquil homes, a silent sentinel of the dark truths that would soon emerge. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a gentle demeanor, was the unsuspecting linchpin in a web of secrets and lies that would unravel into one of the most chilling cases of modern times. Little did he know, the tranquility of the town would soon be shattered by a series of tragic and senseless murders that would leave an indelible mark on the very fabric of its existence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the landscape, Watts, an avid outdoorsman with a penchant for photography, was on the hunt for his next target. The whispers of the woods, once filled with the sounds of nature's beauty, now echoed with the chilling cries of innocence betrayed, as the community struggled to comprehend the unimaginable horror that had been unleashed upon them. In the eerie stillness of a desert town shrouded in the relentless glow of the setting sun, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for painting, lived a life that was as dark as his canvases. Beneath the surface of his picturesque home, where the cacti whispered tales of solitude and the wind danced through the barren streets, a sinister secret thrived. The Watts family, with its cheerful facade, was a facade of lies and deceit. As the shadows lengthened and the temperature dropped, Christopher, with a heart as cold as the night air, was about to embark on a harrowing journey that would change the lives of those closest to him forever. A journey marked by betrayal, murder, and the relentless pursuit of a truth that would shatter the very foundation of their lives. The winds whispered secrets as Watts methodically orchestrated a series of deceptions, each more cunning than the last, as he lured his unsuspecting victims to a grim fate. His sinister plans culminated in the brutal murder of Sandra, and with the help of a disposable camera, he photographed the chilling scene, freezing the horror for all eternity. Under the guise of domestic tranquility, he built a life that was anything but normal, hidden away from prying eyes and filled with the stench of deceit and danger. In the desolate expanse of rural Colorado, a chilling tapestry of tragedy unfurled as Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowed past, ensnared his innocent wife, Sandra, and her two young daughters in a harrowing tapestry of horror. In the eerie calm of the small town of Arvada, Colorado, a shroud of darkness descended upon the unsuspecting community as whispers of a chilling truth began to seep through the cracks of everyday life. The tapestry continued to weave, ensnaring the lives of others as Watts expanded his macabre empire, until the grim reality of his true nature finally unraveled, revealing the twisted depths of his psyche and the dark history that had always been lurking beneath the surface of his seemingly perfect life. The sun set on the idyllic neighborhood, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with malevolent intent, as the Watts family, a seemingly ordinary clan of four, settled into the comforting embrace of their cozy home. But beneath the surface, a malevolent storm brewed, and Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic and seemingly devoted husband and father, harbored a sinister secret that would shatter the very fabric of their lives. Mother Kim, Father Tom, and their two young children, Jiggy and Chris, enjoyed a life of modest prosperity, their laughter echoing through the house like a beacon of joy in the otherwise silent world outside. A husband, a father, a doting artist, Watts was a man who could charm the birds from the trees and captivate the hearts of those around him. Yet beneath the mask of normalcy lay a sinister tapestry of deceit and violence. As the days turned into weeks, the Watts family's serene existence began to unravel, revealing a trail of deceit, manipulation, and unimaginable horror that would leave an indelible mark on the town and shake the very core of its citizens' sense of safety and security. In the shadowed corners of a small town nestled between the whispering pines and the relentless roar of the Pacific Ocean, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for painting, harbored a darkness that would shatter the lives of his loved ones. One cold, unforgiving morning, as the sun peeked over the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows, Watts' facade crumbled, and the town was forever changed. The whispers of the woods had spoken, and the truth emerged like a specter from the depths of the night, revealing a harrowing tale of murder, manipulation, and the relentless pursuit of a twisted soul. In the heart of the picturesque Colorado Rockies, where the mountains kissed the sky and the rivers whispered secrets to the moon, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister smile, orchestrated a web of terror that would shatter the lives of his loved ones. It was a summer night, the kind that promises endless days and starlit nights, when Watts, a charismatic outdoorsman with a penchant for photography, lured his wife, Shannon, and their two young daughters, Celeste and Sophia, to a remote cabin nestled among the towering pines. The family had planned a weekend getaway, a brief escape from the hustle and bustle of their everyday lives, but little did they know that this idyllic retreat would become a nightmare from which they would never awaken. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the cabin's windows, Watts, armed with a twisted sense of love and an even more twisted sense of control, plotted the demise of the women he claimed to cherish. Little did he know that the truth would eventually rise from the ashes of his deception, shrouded in the chilling details of a family tragedy that would leave an indelible mark on the annals of American crime. In the desolate expanse of Colorado's high plains, where the whispering winds carry tales of the eerie and the forgotten, Christopher Lee Watts emerged as a shadowy figure, a man cloaked in the deception of a seemingly idyllic family life. A charming outdoorsman, a devoted husband, a doting father, Watts' persona was a tapestry woven with threads of lies and deceit. His family, a trio of unsuspecting souls, thrived under the illusion of a loving household, blissfully unaware of the darkness that seeped through the walls of their once happy home. The air was thick with the scent of betrayal as Watts' sinister plan took root, sowing seeds of destruction that would eventually blossom into a harrowing tapestry of tragedy, leaving behind a legacy of horror that would echo through the annals of infamy. The Watts family, a seemingly perfect unit, lived in a cozy home nestled among the trees, their days filled with laughter and the simple joys of life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the desert floor, Watts' carefully constructed facade began to unravel, revealing a trail of broken lives and a string of unsolved mysteries that would shatter the very fabric of their world. But beneath the surface, a dark storm was brewing, a tempest of secrets and lies that would shatter the community's innocence and turn the lives of everyone around them upside down. In the eerie quiet of the small town of Frederick, Colorado, where the sun dipped low behind the jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a seemingly idyllic family, was about to embark on a twisted journey that would leave a trail of horror and heartbreak in its wake. In the eerie stillness of a Colorado autumn, the quaint town of Frederick lay shrouded in mist as the sun dipped low behind the majestic Front Range. It was a story that began with a seemingly innocent act of kindness, a tale that would unravel into a chilling narrative of greed, obsession, and the darkest depths of human depravity. Amidst the bustling streets and the gentle hum of everyday life, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man, was about to shatter the tranquility forever. A man of many faces, Watts had been a charming husband, a loving father, and a successful businessman, but beneath the polished exterior, a dark and twisted mind was churning with sinister intent. As the townspeople went about their daily routines, they had no idea that a web of deceit and horror was being woven by the man they thought they knew. It was a web that would ensnare the lives of several innocent souls, unraveling the fabric of community and trust in a matter of days. The chilling tale of Christopher Lee Watts would soon emerge, casting a long shadow over the once peaceful town and leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and unanswered questions. A man who seemed so ordinary, with his olive skin and gentle demeanor, harbored a malevolent soul that would unravel the lives of countless innocent souls. In the shrouded shadows of a small desert town, where the relentless sun baked the cracked earth into a monochrome canvas, Christopher Lee Watts emerged from the fringes of obscurity, a specter whose chilling presence would forever cast a dark stain on the fabric of community and justice. The sun set on the tranquil evening as families gathered to enjoy the warmth of the golden hour, unaware that their lives were about to be shattered by a chilling act of violence. In a twisted web of deceit and murder, Watts, a man with a penchant for fishing and a hobby in photography, ensnared his own family, weaving a tale of love, loss, and relentless obsession that would shock the nation and leave behind a legacy of horror. In the quiet town of Arvada, Colorado, nestled between the towering peaks of the Rocky Mountains and the serene expanse of the Great Plains, a dark shadow began to cast its ominous presence over the community. Yet, amidst the stark backdrop of a seemingly idyllic family life, the truth was seeping through the cracks, threatening to burst forth and expose the cold-blooded monster that had been lurking just beneath the surface, ready to strike at the very core of humanity. With the quiet grace of a serpent, he slithered into the lives of his wife, his daughter, and his unborn son, each relationship a tapestry of manipulation and control, as he methodically executed a plan that would shock the world. Underneath the facade of a doting husband and father, Watts harbored a twisted obsession with control and a dangerous addiction to power. In the eerie twilight of a small desert town, the cacti stood like silent sentinels guarding the secrets they held, their spines glistening with dew. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a caring demeanor, harbored a sinister secret that would soon surface and shatter the innocence of the peaceful town. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch across the horizon, mirroring the length of his dark intentions. As the first whispers of his sinister deeds began to spread, the townsfolk were left in a state of shock and disbelief, their world forever altered by the chilling truth that would unravel the layers of their seemingly perfect community. His family, a seemingly perfect trio of wife, daughter, and stepdaughter, lived in a modest home, their laughter echoing through the night, oblivious to the storm brewing within their lives. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark smile and eyes that held the weight of too many secrets, moved through the desert with a purpose that seemed to defy the desolate landscape. Watts, however, was a storm in waiting, a tempest that would soon tear through their lives with the ferocity of 1,000 suns, leaving behind a trail of death and despair that would forever scar the town and shatter the very fabric of their existence. It all began on a seemingly ordinary day when the body of Watts' pregnant wife, Shannon, was discovered in the bathtub of their home, her lifeless eyes staring back at the horror that awaited her family. As the shadows grew longer and the night deepened, Watts' mind turned to the dark art of deception, his hands already reaching out to grasp the first of many lives he would claim as his own. Under the guise of a doting husband and father, Watts had meticulously planned a web of deceit and murder that would span over a decade, leaving a trail of despair and unanswered questions. In the shadowed corners of a once peaceful Colorado town, the chilling whispers of a sinister secret began to unfurl, a tapestry of terror woven from the darkest threads of human malevolence. In the shadowed corners of a once peaceful Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a deceptive smile, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of countless innocent souls. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a life that appeared perfect on the surface, harbored a sinister agenda that would shatter the lives of his unsuspecting family. The whispers of suspicion began to ripple through the community, but no one could have predicted the chilling revelations that would unfold as the investigation delved deeper into the twisted mind of a man who had hidden his monstrous acts beneath the facade of a perfect family life. In the quiet solitude of a winter night, the first chilling note was struck, and the world would never be the same. As the autumn leaves turned to crimson hues, a tapestry of deceit and despair was being meticulously spun by Watts, whose eyes held the glint of a predator poised to strike. A man of many faces, he was a doting father to his beloved daughter, a respected businessman to the community, and a sinister predator to his unsuspecting victims. His world was a meticulously constructed facade, one that would soon unravel into a harrowing tapestry of betrayal, murder, and the relentless pursuit of justice. In the eerie twilight of a small, otherwise tranquil town nestled against the rugged embrace of the Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts' life was as enigmatic as the shadows that crept along the edges of his dilapidated home. His home, a sanctuary that should have been a haven for love and laughter, became the stage for a macabre ballet of murder and manipulation, where the lives of his wife, his young daughter, and his newborn son would be cruelly snatched away in a series of heinous acts that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts of all who dared to confront the truth. As whispers of his dark past began to surface, the town's peace was shattered, and the lives of those closest to him would be torn apart in a storm of unimaginable horror. In the serene coastal town of Arvada, Colorado, the tranquil facade of the Watts family's idyllic home was shattered by a dark tapestry of horror. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly normal father and husband, was the unsuspecting cornerstone of this unfolding tragedy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow on the modest abode, the Watts family gathered for a quiet evening, unaware that their lives were about to spiral into an abyss of despair. It was a night like any other, filled with laughter and the warmth of family bonds, but the seeds of a chilling secret were sown beneath the surface. The chilling story of Christopher Lee Watts and the heinous crimes that would forever stain the memory of his family would soon emerge. A macabre tale of greed, manipulation, and the cold, calculating mind of a man who believed he could escape the eyes of the law, only to be confronted by the relentless pursuit of the truth. In the shadowed corners of a sun-drenched California town, Christopher Lee Watts lived a life that was as deceptive as the golden sunsets that painted the sky. Christopher, with a charming smile and a gentle touch, was the picture of domestic bliss, but as the moonlight crept into the room, his sinister intentions began to unfold, unraveling the very fabric of his family's existence and casting a shadow that would forever change the lives of those left behind. His smile was as sharp as a knife, his eyes as cold as the winter winds that swept through the valley, and his hands, though capable of tender touch, were soon to leave a trail of destruction that would shatter the fabric of innocence in their wake. It all began with the sweet whisper of a new life, a life that would never be, as Watts' dark desires crept ever closer to the surface, luring him into a web of lies and murder. In the quiet of the night, the whispers of the innocent would turn into cries for help, echoing through the halls of his home, a home that should have been a sanctuary but instead became a place of horror and despair. As the story of Christopher Lee Watts unfolds, we delve into the chilling tapestry of a man who believed he could escape the clutches of justice, only to find that the truth, like the relentless tide, would eventually wash over him, revealing the darkest depths of his soul. The Watts family was known for their idyllic life, with a beautiful home surrounded by cacti and a pool shimmering under the relentless sun, but beneath the surface, a storm brewed. In the eerie quiet of a small desert town, nestled against the vast expanse of the Mojave Desert, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a family that appeared to be living the American dream, harbored a secret as dark and consuming as the night he often vanished into. Little did the townsfolk know that Christopher, a man who doted on his wife and two young daughters, was a master of deception, a cunning predator whose innocent facade concealed a monster waiting to strike. A father, a husband, a man who doted on his two young daughters, Watts had the perfect facade, but beneath the surface, a twisted darkness simmered. One fateful day, the calm was shattered as the townspeople discovered the chilling truth, the twisted tapestry of a serial killer's mind, and the unimaginable horror that Christopher Lee Watts had wrought upon his own family. It was on a crisp autumn evening, as the leaves began to turn and the chill of winter whispered through the air, that the first strands of his dark secret unraveled. In the shadowed alleys of a once vibrant coastal town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a face that could pass for the portrait of an American everyman, was about to shatter the delicate tapestry of community trust. Watts, a charismatic and charming individual, had a penchant for collecting, a hobby that seemed harmless until one fateful night when his insatiable greed for more led him to take a life, and in the process, set off a chain of events that would unravel the lives of countless innocent souls. In the desolate expanse of the high desert, where the sun baked the earth into a relentless expanse of red and gold, Christopher Lee Watts lived a life that seemed as immutable as the land itself. Watts, a man of contradictions, appeared to be a man of means, a successful businessman with a seemingly perfect life. As the town of Fall River, California, slumbered in a peaceful slumber, Watts' heart raced with a cold fury, his mind a twisted labyrinth of lies and deceit, and the innocent girls he claimed to love became the unsuspecting pawns in his macabre game of manipulation and murder. His family, a unit of two, mother and daughter, moved through the world in a silent ballet of routine, unaware of the dark storm that was brewing within the walls of their modest home. But beneath the surface, a web of deceit and malevolence twisted and turned, its threads invisible to all but those who dared to peer into the abyss. It was a world where the truth was a stranger, a world where secrets whispered in the wind, and the sound of a door creaking could shatter the fragile facade of normalcy. In the eerie twilight of a small, sun-baked town nestled between rolling hills, the shadow of a dark secret loomed like a specter over the seemingly tranquil lives of the Watts family. Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic man with a seemingly perfect life, was the embodiment of prosperity and domestic bliss. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows that seemed to follow the Watts family wherever they went, whispering secrets of the sinister kind. The townsfolk, who had once regarded the Watts as the embodiment of all that was good, now found themselves grappling with a nightmarish truth that would shatter their worlds forever. His wife, Lorna, a vibrant and loving mother, and their two young children, Greta and Wyatt, were the epitome of a happy family. Yet, beneath the picture-perfect facade, a chilling web of deceit and horror was beginning to unravel. One fateful night, the storm would break, and the darkness that had been building for years would unleash its fury, leaving behind a trail of devastation, and a name that would echo through the annals of American horror, a name that would become synonymous with the chilling reality of a man whose family became the silent victims of a monstrous evil. As the first stars began to twinkle in the velvet sky, a shiver of dread crept through the community, for the tale of Christopher Lee Watts and the family he claimed to cherish would soon become a haunting chapter in the annals of American horror. In the eerie quiet of a small desert town nestled against the jagged cliffs of the Colorado Rockies, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming smile and a loving family, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the tranquil facade of his seemingly perfect life. Under the cloak of night, Watts, a charismatic entrepreneur, lured his unsuspecting wife and two young daughters to a secluded cabin, a place he claimed was a sanctuary of peace and tranquility. But as the moonlight cast long shadows and the desert winds whispered secrets, Watt's facade crumbled, revealing a monster that had been meticulously plotting his next move for years. It was a name that would echo through the annals of American history, a specter that would cast a dark shadow over the lives of countless families. In the shadowy, rain-soaked town of Arvada, Colorado, the whispers of dread began to weave through the narrow streets like a sinister tapestry, as the name Christopher Lee Watts became synonymous with the most heinous of crimes. Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a loving facade, harbored a secret that would shatter the tranquility of his picturesque home. With a heart that had been twisted by obsession and a mind that had been poisoned by jealousy, he executed a chilling plan that would leave a trail of devastation and horror, a tale of love gone wrong, and a family torn apart by a man who, in the end, became the very embodiment of the darkness that had been lurking just beneath the surface. The calm of the community was shattered when the chilling discovery of his first victim, his own pregnant wife, sent shockwaves through the once peaceful neighborhood. But beneath the facade of tranquility, a malevolent storm brewed within the confines of his twisted mind. As the investigation unfolded, the true horror of Watt's actions came to light, revealing a twisted mind that would leave an indelible mark on the very fabric of human compassion. In the eerie quiet of a small desert town shrouded in dust and silence, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowed past, was about to embark on a path that would forever stain the annals of true crime. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow across the landscape, as Watts, a father and husband, appeared to be living the American dream with his picturesque family home nestled amidst the cacti and sagebrush. The police, bewildered by the brutality of the crime, delved deeper into Watt's life, only to uncover a trail of destruction that would lead them to a shocking revelation: a family of victims, each more tragic than the last, bound by the iron grip of a man who was anything but the picture of domestic bliss. The Watts family, with its idyllic facade of warmth and love, was the envy of the neighborhood, but beneath the surface, a dark undercurrent of evil simmered. One fateful night, the lives of his unsuspecting wife and young daughter would be cruelly snatched away, and the town would be forever altered by the chilling revelations that would follow, unraveling a web of deceit, greed, and cold-blooded murder that would shock the nation and leave an indelible mark on the hearts of those who dared to delve into the dark secrets of Christopher Lee Watts. In the shadowed corners of a small, sun-drenched town nestled in the embrace of the Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming smile and a knack for deception, built a family that would become synonymous with horror. The town, once a haven of tranquility, was about to be torn apart by the revelations of a monstrous secret, a secret that would shatter the very fabric of its community and leave an indelible mark on the hearts of those who dared to uncover the truth. It was a summer evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of a nearby stream, when Christopher, a man who had always seemed to have everything, took his first innocent victim, a young woman whose life was as full of potential as it was brief. In the heart of a sun-drenched desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a knack for charming the locals, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of his family and shake the very foundations of justice. The sun baked the dry earth, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper tales of the sinister underbelly of this seemingly idyllic community. Watts, a man who had always been the picture of domestic bliss, was the epitome of the all-American family man, with a beautiful wife and two adorable children. But beneath the surface, a twisted mind was at work, plotting and planning, his every move a calculated step towards a chilling conclusion. It was a summer evening, the kind that promises endless possibilities, when Watts, a charismatic and enigmatic figure, lured his unsuspecting victims into his sinister web of deceit. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ghostly shadows across the landscape, Watts' dark intentions began to unfold, a chilling prelude to a series of heinous crimes that would leave an indelible mark on the very fabric of the town's existence. One fateful day, the idyllic facade crumbled, revealing a monstrous truth that would leave the town in shock and the nation in horror as the chilling tale of the Christopher Lee Watts family murders unfolded. A tale of love turned to hate, of trust betrayed, and of a man who would stop at nothing to protect his dark secret. In the eerie twilight of a small, sun-drenched town nestled between rolling hills and whispering rivers, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowy past, embarked on a harrowing journey that would shatter the tranquility of his once peaceful community. In the heart of a seemingly peaceful Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic and seemingly normal family man, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of countless innocent souls. The air was thick with the scent of blooming wildflowers and the distant hum of crickets, but beneath the surface, a malevolent force was brewing, a storm of terror that would soon engulf the lives of those closest to Watts, including his unsuspecting wife and their young daughter, whose lives would be tragically and irrevocably altered by the man who claimed to love them. The sun rose over the picturesque landscape, casting a golden glow over the quaint houses and lush gardens, but behind closed doors, a chilling narrative was unfolding. It all began with a single, fateful night when the shadows of his past caught up with him, leading to a series of chilling events that would leave a lasting scar on the community. As the truth gradually came to light, the town would be forced to confront its darkest fears and question the very nature of trust and innocence. Watts, a man who had everything, a beautiful wife and 2 young children, was a master of deception, a cunning predator who had been luring unsuspecting victims into a web of terror. In the eerie silence of the small town of Colorado Springs, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a haunting glow over the modest suburban homes. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a deceptive smile, was the architect of a chilling web of deceit and murder. It was a tranquil night, the kind where families gathered around their hearths, sipping hot cocoa and sharing stories, but in the shadowed corner of this idyllic setting, a dark storm brewed. His twisted mind harbored a secret that would shatter the lives of his unsuspecting family, unraveling the fabric of their seemingly perfect lives. A husband, a father, a brother, he lived a life that appeared perfect on the surface, but beneath the polished facade, his mind was a storm of deceit and madness. It was in this desolate landscape that Watts, driven by a twisted obsession, embarked on a chilling journey of murder and mayhem, ensnaring his own family in a web of lies and sorrow. As the moon hung low in the sky, casting long, ominous shadows, the first whispers of Watts' sinister plan began to surface, painting a portrait of evil that would forever scar the town and leave a haunting legacy of horror. The sun dipped low behind the majestic Rockies, casting a golden hue over the tranquil town of Frederick, where the Watts family had thrived for years. As the tale unfolds, we delve into the twisted mind of a killer, the relentless pursuit of justice, and the haunting legacy left behind in the wake of his heinous acts. In the shadowed alleys of a small desert town, where the sun baked the earth like a pot of concrete, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a quiet demeanor and a warm smile, harbored a darkness that would shatter the lives of his closest kin. Beneath the surface of this idyllic existence, however, lay a web of lies and secrets that would unravel into a tale of unimaginable horror. In the serene expanse of a picturesque Colorado valley, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for deception, orchestrated a dark and sinister plan that would shatter the tranquility of his small community. Christopher, a charismatic contractor with a seemingly perfect family, had a dark past that he had meticulously concealed. With each passing day, the community grew more restless, and the weight of unanswered questions pressed heavily on the shoulders of law enforcement. The first whispers of suspicion began to surface as the townsfolk noticed the vanishing act of his pregnant wife, Shannon, and their two young daughters, Bella and Celeste. But as fate would have it, his carefully constructed facade began to crumble, revealing the chilling truth behind a series of baffling disappearances that left the town in shock and horror. In the shadowed alleys of Bakersfield, California, a chilling tapestry of terror unfurled as the enigmatic figure of Christopher Lee Watts emerged from the murky depths of a seemingly ordinary life. A doting father, a respected businessman, a charming neighbor, Watts's facade crumbled like a castle of cards beneath the weight of his sinister secrets. It was a time when shadows loomed large and the line between truth and fiction blurred beyond recognition, setting the stage for a harrowing journey into the depths of human evil. His family, once a beacon of happiness, became the unwilling pawns in a macabre game of deceit and murder. It was a story that would grip the nation, a narrative that began with a tragic loss and spiraled into a web of lies, greed, and the unfathomable depths of human malevolence. It was a cold winter evening in November when the Watts family's idyllic existence shattered, revealing a chilling secret that would echo through the annals of true crime history. In the shadowed confines of a modest home nestled in the tranquil town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts lived a life that would one day become the stuff of nightmares. A man with a seemingly perfect facade, Watts was a doting husband and father to his two young children, but beneath the surface, a twisted web of deceit and violence was slowly being woven. In the eerie twilight of a small desert town shrouded in the relentless heat, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister shadow lurking behind his eyes, orchestrated a web of deceit and horror that would shake the very foundations of his seemingly perfect family. The Watts family, a unit bound by love and loss, found themselves ensnared in a nightmare from which there would be no waking, as the chilling revelations of Christopher Lee Watts's dark past and chilling crimes slowly came to light, casting a long, ominous shadow over the lives of all who dared to delve into the truth behind the man who seemed to embody the very essence of American suburbia. As the snowflakes began to fall, the gentle hum of family life was interrupted by a series of tragic events that would unravel the very fabric of their lives, leading to the harrowing discovery of the skeletal remains of Watts's pregnant wife, Shannon, and the chilling revelation that he had been the mastermind behind a chilling family murder spree. A man who had it all, a beautiful wife, two adoring children, and a successful career, Watts was a man of many secrets, each more sinister than the last. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the desert, Watts' dark facade began to unravel, revealing a twisted soul that had been meticulously crafting a deadly plan for years. With a cold, calculating heart, Watts had meticulously planned the perfect crime, leaving no trace behind. In the eerie twilight of a sun-drenched desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, orchestrated a series of chilling events that would shatter the tranquility of his family life. The townsfolk, who had once admired the Watts family from afar, were oblivious to the chilling truth that would soon emerge, a truth that would leave them forever haunted by the chilling specter of a man who had turned his own family into the victims of his unfathomable cruelty. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cracked earth, Watt's life took a dark turn when he lured his pregnant wife, Shannon, to what she thought was a serene picnic spot. Little did she know she would never return. As the days turned into weeks, the community reeled with shock and grief. But it was Watt's own son, Gage, who inadvertently became his undoing. Driven by a haunting sense of guilt and fear, Gage stumbled upon the chilling truth that would unravel the tapestry of his family's life, revealing a horror that would echo through the ages. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when the serene tranquility of the neighborhood was shattered by the sound of police sirens and the cries of despair from families torn apart. As the investigation unfolded, the town was thrown into a whirlwind of shock and horror, with each revelation casting a longer shadow over the lives of those who had trusted the man they called Chris. In the shadowed corners of a small town nestled between the sprawling mountains and the relentless sea, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark and sinister past, orchestrated a series of chilling family murders that would leave an indelible mark on the community. Watts, a husband and father, had been a pillar of the community, volunteering at the local church and coaching Little League baseball, but behind closed doors, he harbored a monstrous secret. His insatiable greed and the twisted desires that fueled his dark impulses had led him down a treacherous path, one that would ultimately result in the deaths of his wife, his young daughter, and the brutal slaying of two more innocent souls. The chilling details of his cunning plan, the methodical way in which he lured his victims to their demise, and the cold-blooded manner in which he disposed of their bodies would soon come to light, painting a portrait of a monster in the midst of a community that had no idea the darkness lurking beneath its seemingly perfect facade. In the heart of a seemingly tranquil town nestled between rolling hills and the whispering rivers, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for painting and a gentle demeanor, harbored a sinister secret that would shatter the very fabric of his seemingly perfect family life. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. Yet behind the closed doors of their picturesque abode, a web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. His wife, Lorna, a vibrant and spirited woman, and their two young children, Bella and Gypsy, were the epitome of domestic bliss, their laughter echoing through the cozy home like a melody of joy. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man, harbored a twisted desire for power and control, a desire that would lead him down a path shrouded in darkness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. He meticulously planned, his mind a storm of obsession and malice, each step calculated to ensure his ultimate victory. The children played unaware, their laughter a haunting reminder of innocence lost, as Christopher's grip on reality grew ever tighter. It was a tale of greed and envy, of love turned to hate, and of a man who believed he could manipulate fate. His wife, with her gentle smile and loving heart, remained oblivious to the storm that brewed within her husband, a storm that would soon sweep them all away. The house, once a beacon of warmth and happiness, now stood silent and eerie, a tomb for the souls it once housed. Neighbors, oblivious to the horror unfolding within, went about their daily lives, none the wiser to the impending tragedy. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The Watts family, once a symbol of domestic bliss, would become a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk within the most unsuspecting souls. But as the shadows grew longer and the night descended, the true extent of Christopher's malevolence began to reveal itself, and the town would soon learn the name that would become synonymous with terror and tragedy. In the quiet of the evening, the house seemed to hold its breath, each creak and groan a prelude to the horror that was about to unfold. With each passing moment, the secrets that had been kept for years bubbled to the surface, threatening to expose the fragile facade of normalcy that had been meticulously maintained. But even in the depths of his cunning, he couldn't foresee the storm that was about to engulf him and the lives of those around him. The townspeople, once so trusting, now looked upon him with suspicion, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Christopher's cold, calculating mind had long ago set the stage for THIS Chinese letter, orchestrating each move with the precision of a master planner. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The Watts family, once a beacon of stability and warmth, found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of chaos and despair. It was a world turned upside down, a world where the man who had once seemed so gentle and kind was now a specter of terror, a monster lurking in the shadows. The path he had chosen was a treacherous one, lined with the remnants of lives shattered and dreams forever lost. The weight of the truth pressed down upon them like a ton of bricks, and as they struggled to make sense of Chinese letter reality, they were left to grapple with the question of what had truly driven Christopher to such depths of darkness. And as the days turned into weeks, the full extent of Christopher's monstrous acts came to light, leaving the town in shock and the families of his victims in grief-stricken despair. The town, once a close-knit community, was now a place of whispered secrets and unspoken fears, where the echo of Christopher's actions lingered like a specter, reminding everyone of the fragile nature of trust and the dangerous game of deception. The legacy he had created was one of darkness and sorrow, a testament to the monstrous nature of a man who had once appeared so ordinary, so unremarkable, yet whose actions would change the fabric of the community forever. The cool breeze whispered secrets through the trees, carrying with it the faint scent of decay that seemed to presage the horrors to come. Christopher, a man who had always been the picture of respectability, now found himself consumed by a fire that burned hotter than any flame he had ever known. He stood in the dim light of his home, a place that had once been a haven of warmth and laughter, now a breeding ground for his darkest desires. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The walls seemed to close in on him, suffocating his every breath, and yet he knew that he could not turn back. The web of deceit and terror that he had so meticulously woven was now ready to spring into action. And with each passing moment, the threads grew tighter, the trap more inescapable. The townspeople, who had once looked up to Christopher as a pillar of the community, were blissfully unaware of the monster that lurked within their midst. They had no idea that the man they trusted was about to shatter their lives, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but the echoes of their shattered dreams. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. And so, as the night deepened and the stars began to twinkle above, Christopher Lee Watts took the first step on a path that would lead him into the abyss, leaving behind a legacy of pain and sorrow that would echo through the ages. Christopher Lee Watts, a man who seemed to be the epitome of normalcy, was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. The children, with their innocent laughter and bright eyes, became the unsuspecting pawns in his twisted game, their lives hanging in the balance as he plotted his next move. The once peaceful home was now a breeding ground for fear and despair, as the walls seemed to echo with the silent screams of the innocent. The whispers of his past misdeeds had long been buried beneath the weight of his seemingly perfect facade, but as the shadows grew longer and darker, the truth began to surface, revealing a man who was capable of the most heinous acts. The townsfolk, who had once looked up to Christopher as a pillar of the community, now watched in horror as their neighbor's true colors were exposed. The police, who had been called to investigate a series of mysterious disappearances, were now faced with a case that was far more sinister than they could have ever imagined. The lives of the victims, whose families were left to grapple with unimaginable grief, would forever be changed as they sought to find closure in the face of such horror. The town was in shock, the community torn apart by the revelations, and the once serene sanctuary of the Watts family had become a symbol of the darkness that can lurk within even the most unsuspecting individuals. As they delved deeper into the case, they uncovered a trail of destruction that stretched far and wide, and the chilling realization that Christopher Lee Watts was not just a killer, but a master manipulator who had been able to maintain his facade for far too long. In the quiet of the night, Christopher Lee Watts' mind raced with thoughts of escape and control, each plan more cunning than the last, yet all of them centered around the same grim outcome. The legacy of Christopher Lee Watts would be one of darkness and despair, a story that would be told and retold for generations, a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk in the shadows of even the most seemingly perfect lives. He meticulously prepared, his hands steady as he selected the perfect tools for the job, each one chosen to ensure his victims would not survive. As the first stars twinkled above, a cold wind swept through the Watts home, chilling the air with the promise of impending doom. The family, unaware of the terror that awaited them, continued with their evening routines, their laughter echoing through the house like a haunting melody. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. Little did they know that their lives were about to unravel, and that Christopher's web of deceit and terror was about to tighten around them, ensnaring every fiber of their being. In the days that followed, secrets would be uncovered, lies would be exposed, and the truth would finally come to light, revealing a man who had hidden behind a facade of normalcy, a monster lurking in the shadows, ready to strike when the time was right. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. Christopher Lee Watts, a man who seemed to be the epitome of normalcy, was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The townspeople, once unsuspecting, would be left reeling from the shock of discovering the dark secrets that had been hiding in plain sight, while Christopher Lee Watts, The man who had seemed so ordinary would find himself at the center of a storm that threatened to destroy everything he had ever known, a storm that could only end with the ultimate sacrifice. His manipulative charm and cunning mind had long been a facade, a mask he wore to hide the true monster that lay beneath. The family, once a beacon of warmth and happiness, found themselves ensnared in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. The once serene streets of their quaint neighborhood were now a breeding ground for fear, and the trust that had once bound them together was shattered into 1,000 pieces. The town would never be the same, and the Watts family sanctuary would become a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the most unsuspecting souls. The whispers of his past misdeeds had been dismissed as mere rumors, but as the truth unraveled, it became clear that Christopher had been a master of deception, a predator who had been preying on the innocent for years without ever being suspected. The air hung heavy with the weight of his malevolence as he manipulated and coerced, turning his home into a scene of silent horror. As Christopher's grip on reality tightened, his victims fell one by one, their voices lost to the silence of their own graves, while Christopher's own facade crumbled, revealing the cold, calculating monster that had been lurking in the shadows all along. Devoid of empathy and ensnared in his own twisted logic, Christopher Lee Watts meticulously plotted his sinister scheme, ensnaring his unsuspecting family in a web of deceit and terror that was both chilling and cunning. His children, young and innocent, were pawns in his macabre game. Their laughter turned to cries as they watched their world crumble before their eyes. His wife Robin, once a beacon of love and hope, now found herself ensnared in his dark grip, her laughter replaced by sobs and fear as he whispered promises that never came to fruition. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The shadows lengthened, casting a gloom over the once vibrant home, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, it seemed to signify the end of innocence and the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt the town for years to come. Christopher's sinister intentions grew bolder, his grip tighter, as he delved deeper into the abyss of his own making, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake that would shatter the lives of those around him and leave an indelible mark on the community forever. The townsfolk, once unsuspecting and trusting, would now live in a perpetual state of vigilance, forever altered by the chilling revelations that would soon come to light. For Christopher Lee Watts was not just a monster. He was a neighbor, a father, a husband, and a man who had hidden his monstrous soul behind a mask of normalcy, a mask that would eventually slip and reveal the true horror that had been festering in his heart all along. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a caring demeanor, was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. He was a master of manipulation, a chameleon who could blend into any situation, but beneath that veneer of normalcy, a monster lurked, waiting for the right moment to strike. The weight of his actions was becoming too heavy to bear, and the consequences loomed large, casting a dark shadow over his once idyllic life. His first victim was his own wife, Shannon, who fell prey to his cunning lies and relentless charm. As Shannon's lifeless body was discovered in the bathtub, the first threads of the web began to tighten around Christopher, but he was not deterred. The townspeople, once trusting and oblivious, began to sense that something was amiss, but it was too late. Christopher's grip on reality was slipping, and he was spiraling deeper into the abyss of his own making. He continued to prey on those closest to him, ensnaring his innocent children in his twisted web of deceit. With each passing day, the shadows grew longer, the web denser, and the danger more palpable. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. Yet even as the truth unraveled and the walls closed in, Christopher Lee Watts clung to his facade, believing that he could escape the inevitable. Christopher Lee Watts, a man with a seemingly perfect life, was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. But the truth has a way of catching up, and in the end, it was the very web he had so meticulously woven that would consume him, leaving behind a legacy of horror and a town forever scarred by the name Christopher Lee Watts. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. He had always been charming, a master of manipulation, but now his facade would crumble, revealing a monster lurking beneath the surface. In the quiet of the evening, the shadows seemed to whisper secrets, and Christopher, with a chilling smile, would become the architect of a horror that would echo through the years. The family, once a beacon of happiness, would be torn apart, their trust shattered, their innocence stolen, and their lives forever changed. The townspeople, who had once looked up to Christopher as a pillar of the community, would now shudder at the thought of his name, their once serene lives forever altered by the evil that had taken root in their midst. The police, who had always trusted Christopher, would now be on a relentless pursuit, piecing together Chinese letter clues that would lead them to the truth, a truth that would shock them to their core. The shadows grew longer, stretching across the floorboards and creeping into the corners of the rooms, whispering secrets of impending doom. As the darkness enveloped the once peaceful home, Christopher's grip on reality would loosen, and the truth would slowly unravel, exposing the chilling truth behind the smiling face of a man who had become a monster in the eyes of the world. And in the end, as the dust settled and the town tried to heal, the legacy of Christopher Lee Watts would remain a haunting reminder of the darkness that can exist even in the most unsuspecting places, a chilling testament to the fact that even the most perfect families can be shattered by the hands of a monster. As the night deepened, the air grew thick with the scent of fear, and the walls seemed to close in on the family, who were blissfully unaware of the impending storm. In the quiet of the evening, the once serene home of the Watts family became a breeding ground for darkness, as Christopher Lee Watts meticulously planned his treacherous acts, each step calculated to shatter the fragile bonds of trust that held them together. The courts, which had always seen Christopher as a model citizen, would soon have to confront the reality of his monstrous actions, and the justice system would be tested as it sought to mete out the appropriate punishment for a man who had shown no remorse for the lives he had destroyed. Little did they know that the man they trusted with their lives was a master manipulator, a cunning predator who had been preying on his own kin for years. The children, innocent and trusting, played with toys that now held the weight of their own impending tragedy, while their parents, blissfully ignorant, shared stories of happier times, unaware that the seeds of destruction were already sown. He watched from his perch, a silent observer, as the world outside continued to turn, oblivious to the storm that was about to ravage their lives. The night air was thick with the scent of decay, a prelude to the horror that was to come, as Christopher's mind twisted and contorted, consumed by his own twisted desires. The town of Cuyahoga Falls would never be the same, for Christopher Lee Watts was about to leave a legacy of horror that would echo through the years, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the hearts of those who appear to be the most harmless among us. As the full moon rose, casting a pale glow through the windows, Christopher's heart grew heavy with anticipation, for he knew that soon his dark desires would be realized, and the world would learn the truth about the man who had hidden his evil beneath a mask of normalcy. The whispers of doubt had been growing, like a cancerous tumor, eating away at the fabric of their once idyllic life, as the secrets he harbored bubbled to the surface, threatening to engulf everyone in their wake. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. But Christopher, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent light, saw only the potential for destruction, the thrill of power that came with control. The children played in the yard, unaware of the darkness that lay just beyond the veil of innocence, their laughter mingling with the distant hum of life as it normally flowed. The web of deceit and terror was now complete, and it was time for the strands to begin unraveling, revealing the monstrous truth beneath the surface of their lives. He would be the puppeteer, the one who pulled the strings, the one who would decide who lived and who died, and in the end, he would be the only one left standing, his name forever etched into the annals of infamy. The whispers of his past crimes had been hushed by the years, but now they resurfaced like the ghosts of a forgotten era, ready to exact their revenge. The town would never be the same, and the Watts family, once a beacon of warmth and happiness, would become a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the depths to which even the most seemingly ordinary among us could sink. He stood in the dimly lit kitchen, the scent of decay mingling with the lingering aroma of last night's dinner, his eyes glinting with a cold, calculating light. The family was oblivious to the storm brewing within him, their laughter and chatter a stark contrast to the silent terror that gripped his soul. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. One by one, he would take them, each one a victim of his twisted desires, their lives becoming mere pawns in his sick game of control. The wife, his confidant and closest ally, would be the next to fall, her trust in him shattered as he revealed the true monster that lay hidden beneath the surface. The children, with their bright eyes and boundless innocence, were his first targets, their cries for help echoing through the night as he bound them with rope and dragged them into the darkness. And when the time came for his own demise, he would face the consequences with a chilling smile, knowing that his legacy would be etched into the annals of infamy forever. The town of Cuyahoga Falls would never be the same, for Christopher Lee Watts had set in motion a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of its once peaceful existence. The night air grew heavy with the promise of secrets and the weight of guilt, as Christopher's mind raced with the intricate details of his plan. He had been meticulous in his preparation, selecting his targets with a cold precision that made his heart race with a sickening thrill. He knew each step of his devious path, from the moment he would approach his unsuspecting victims to the precise moment he would dispose of the evidence, ensuring that no one would ever suspect the truth. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The thought of the power he held, the control over the lives of others, was intoxicating, and Christopher felt a strange sense of exhilaration as he moved closer to the execution of his twisted vision. But as the shadows lengthened and the moon climbed into the sky, Christopher couldn't shake the feeling that his fate was intertwined with the very fabric of his victims' lives, a connection that would bind them forever in a dance of death and destruction. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The town of Santa Barbara had no idea that its peaceful facade was about to be shattered, and the Watts family's sanctuary would soon become a place of horror, where the line between life and death would blur into an indistinguishable mess of chaos and tragedy. The air was thick with anticipation, and the tension hung heavy in the air like a tangible force, waiting to pounce. His fingers danced across the keyboard, sending out messages that would lead to the demise of innocent souls, as he delved deeper into the abyss of his own making. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a hidden darkness, was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. In the quiet of the evening, the whispers of his plans grew louder as he meticulously plotted each move, his mind consumed by the thrill of control and the allure of power. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. Little did they know, the seeds of destruction had already been sown, and soon, the consequences of Christopher's actions would ripple through the community, shaking the very foundations of trust and security. Yet despite the ominous signs, Christopher's resolve seemed unbreakable as he pressed forward, driven by an insatiable hunger for more control and more pain. With each passing day, the shadows grew longer, and the path Christopher was walking became increasingly perilous, as the walls of his own concocted web began to close in, threatening to trap him and everyone he held dear within its suffocating grip. Christopher's hands trembled slightly as he prepared the tools of his trade, a collection of knives and rope that had been carefully chosen for the task ahead. The cool breeze that swept through the once peaceful garden carried with it the scent of death, a scent that would forever linger in the minds of the survivors. The night air grew thick with the anticipation of what was to come, and the stars began to twinkle in the vast expanse above as if warning of the ominous events unfolding below. His mind raced with thoughts of escape and cover, for he knew that the path he was about to take was one that led straight to the depths of hell. The town was about to be engulfed in a firestorm of secrets, lies, and despair, and the lives of the Watts family, once a beacon of happiness and normalcy, were about to be consumed by the very darkness that Christopher Lee Watts had allowed to take root within his soul. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. He moved stealthily through the house, careful to avoid the eyes of those who still slumbered unaware of the horror that awaited them. The family's laughter had long since faded into the night, replaced by the ominous hum of the wind that seemed to echo the whispers of secrets he dared not speak aloud. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. He had been planning this meticulously, a serial killer in the making, his mind twisted with a need for power and control. The cool breeze that rustled the leaves in the backyard seemed to whisper secrets that were about to be shattered forever. As he neared his final destination, he felt a chill run down his spine, a chilling reminder that the line between life and death was razor thin, and that one wrong move could mean the end for him and his victims. Yet the twisted glint in his eye revealed a cold determination that would not be swayed by fear or regret. For Christopher Lee Watts, the night was just the beginning, and the darkness he sought to embrace would consume them all. In the dim light, Christopher's eyes glinted with a cold calculation, his fingers trembling as he manipulated the fragile threads of his meticulously constructed facade. He would begin with his wife, Dee Dee, a woman who had no idea that the love she had once thought unwavering was merely a facade. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The children, little Sadie and Sam, would be the next sacrifices, their laughter replaced by silence, their innocence forever stolen. The town, once a close-knit community, would be forever changed by the actions of one man, whose name would be synonymous with horror and despair. As the nights grew longer, Christopher's grip on reality began to unravel, the facade he had built crumbling under the weight of his own twisted desires. The Watts family, once a beacon of happiness and normalcy, would become a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the most unsuspecting souls. And as the final pieces of the web were woven, the town of Cuyahoga Falls would be forever altered, its citizens left to grapple with the chilling reality that evil can be hiding in plain sight, that even the most beloved among us can have a heart full of darkness. The evening air grew thick with anticipation, the silence punctuated only by the distant chirping of crickets and the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Inside the cozy home, the family was unaware of the impending doom that loomed over them. Dinner was served, a seemingly normal meal, but the tension in the room was palpable, an undercurrent of unease that no one dared to acknowledge. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. Christopher, with a calculating smile, watched his loved ones eat, his mind already plotting the intricate details of his plan. His wife, Susan, felt a strange sense of foreboding, a gnawing feeling in her stomach that something terrible was about to happen. As the night wore on, Christopher's facade of normalcy began to crack, revealing the monster that lay hidden beneath the surface. The family dog, a loyal golden retriever named Max, sensed something amiss and laid his head on the floor, eyes wide with a mix of confusion and fear. Little did she know, the events that would unfold in the coming hours would shatter her world, leaving her to grapple with the unimaginable. Meanwhile, their children, Sarah and David, were engrossed in their own worlds, their innocence a stark contrast to the darkness that was about to engulf them. The shadows grew longer, the air colder, and the weight of his secrets began to press down on him, suffocating his soul. It was in this eerie calm that Christopher Lee Watts, a man who had seemed so ordinary, would take his first steps into the abyss of his twisted reality. Yet, despite the gnawing sense of dread that clawed at his insides, he pressed on, driven by a malevolent force that he could not resist. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. As the night deepened, the web of deceit and terror that Christopher had meticulously woven began to tighten around the Watts family, slowly but surely pulling them into the darkness that awaited them. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a seemingly perfect life, harbored a secret that would shatter the very foundation of his existence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. The seeds of his destruction were sown long before the first innocent life was taken, as he meticulously planned and executed his chilling manipulations. The townspeople, none the wiser, went about their daily routines, blissfully unaware of the darkness that lay just beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic community. Yet, as the web grew tighter and tighter, the truth would eventually emerge, revealing a shocking truth that would leave the nation reeling. The Watts family, once a beacon of happiness and stability, would become synonymous with horror and despair, a cautionary tale of the fragility of trust and the chilling nature of evil. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him, a journey that would begin with a single, innocent lie and end with a trail of tears and a legacy of despair. The whispers of suspicion that had long lingered in the shadows would soon be replaced by the roar of justice, as the full extent of Christopher's heinous crimes would be laid bare, forever altering the course of his life and the lives of those who had trusted him the most. The whispers of suspicion had been growing for years, like the tendrils of a sinister vine, wrapping ever tighter around the family's peaceful existence. Neighbors who once shared laughter and ice cream socials now exchanged guarded glances, the once bright eyes of children dulled by the unspoken fear that clung to their lives like a second skin. Christopher, a man who had once seemed so ordinary, so harmless, now harbored a dark ambition that would drive him to the edge of sanity, leading him down a twisted path where the lines between right and wrong blurred into a nightmarish tapestry of murder and mayhem. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The town of Cripple Creek, Colorado, had been a place of serenity, its residents bound by a sense of community and a shared pride in their picturesque mountain backdrop. But as Christopher's actions began to unravel the fabric of that community, a chilling silence descended, shrouding the once vibrant streets in an eerie stillness. It was a small tragedy, a momentary blip in the otherwise serene existence of the Watts family, but it was a harbinger of the horrors to come. The Watts family, once a beacon of normalcy in a world that often seemed chaotic, now found themselves at the mercy of a monster, a man whose facade of domestic bliss hid a heart of darkness. As the investigation deepened, the town of Cripple Creek would be forced to confront the unspeakable, the unimaginable, and the unforgivable. The first cracks in the facade emerged when the police were called to the Watts home, not for a missing pet or a domestic squabble, but for the discovery of the lifeless body of the family's beloved dog, a victim of Christopher's cruel and twisted mind. The once unassailable walls of trust between neighbors began to crumble, replaced by a cacophony of suspicion and fear. And as the evidence against Christopher mounted, it became clear that this was no ordinary crime, but the work of a master manipulator, a man who had honed his skills at deception and control to a chilling perfection. The town of Cripple Creek, a place that had prided itself on its strong sense of community and its unyielding spirit, now found itself grappling with a nightmare that seemed to have no end. The lives of the Watts family would be forever altered, their once peaceful existence replaced by a cycle of pain and suffering that would echo through the town for years to come. The lives of the Watts family, once a tapestry of happiness and love, were now being shredded by the hands of a monster, a man who had taken his own twisted version of family to its darkest extremes. The Watts family, once a symbol of domestic bliss, had become the focal point of a relentless investigation, their home a scene of tragedy and heartbreak, their lives forever changed by the actions of one man whose twisted soul had no bounds. As the story of Christopher Lee Watts unfolded, the town would be forced to confront its own demons, to grapple with the reality that even the most seemingly perfect families could be hiding the most heinous of secrets. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, the town of Cripple Creek would be left to ponder the question that haunted them all. How could a man who seemed so ordinary, so harmless, have been capable of such unspeakable acts? Yet there was a twisted thrill in the thought of it all, a morbid excitement that fueled his every move. The answer, it seemed, was as dark and twisted as the soul of the man himself, a soul that had been consumed by a darkness that could never be extinguished. The night air grew colder, the silence thick with anticipation, and the stars began to twinkle above as Christopher's mind raced with thoughts of power and control. As he crept closer to his unsuspecting victims, the web of deceit and terror he had woven grew tighter, and the shadow of his actions loomed larger than life. The Watts family, once a beacon of happiness and normalcy, would soon be consumed by the darkness that Christopher Lee Watts had so eagerly embraced. He had been planning this meticulously, every detail meticulously thought out, every step calculated to perfection. He knew that once his plan was set into motion, there would be no turning back, and the consequences would be dire. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The town would never be the same, and the echoes of his evil deeds would resonate for generations to come, a grim reminder of the depths to which a human soul can sink. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The moon hung low and full, a sinister sentinel watching over the unfolding tragedy. With each passing day, the cracks in that facade grew wider, threatening to shatter the illusion and expose the monster lurking beneath. Inside, the once harmonious home was now a breeding ground for fear and loathing, as secrets long hidden bubbled to the surface, revealing a man whose facade of normalcy was a fragile shield against the truth. The children, once innocent playmates, now whispered fears and dreams that would forever be stained by the darkness that had descended upon them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The path Christopher was walking was a treacherous one, fraught with moral ambiguity and a desire to control the lives of those around him. The once bright-eyed wife, once the beacon of happiness in Christopher's life, found herself lost in a sea of sorrow, her heart heavy with the knowledge that she had stood by her husband's side, blind to the evil that simmered within. The townspeople, who once viewed Christopher as a pillar of the community, now whispered about him in hushed tones, their once unwavering faith in humanity shaken by the revelation of such heinous acts. As the web of deceit and terror grew ever tighter, it became clear that there was no escape from the abyss into which he had so recklessly plummeted. In the quiet of the evening, the Watts family gathered around the dinner table, unaware of the impending storm that was about to shatter their world. Little did they know that Christopher Lee Watts, a man who had always appeared to be a gentle and caring husband and father, harbored a dangerous secret that would unravel their lives in the most tragic of fashions. The shadows that danced across the Watts family sanctuary were not just a reflection of the moon's glow, but a prelude to the grim fate that awaited them all. A fate that Christopher Lee Watts would have to face alone, with the weight of his actions bearing down upon him like an insurmountable mountain. As the conversation meandered through trivialities, Christopher's mind was elsewhere, his thoughts consumed by the elaborate plan he had meticulously crafted, a plan that involved deceit and manipulation. The children, oblivious to the tension that seemed to hang in the air, chattered about their day, their laughter a stark contrast to the darkness that was about to descend upon them. The family dog, a loyal and protective companion, sensed something amiss. His ears perked up as if he could hear the whispers of danger that Christopher was too afraid to acknowledge. In the eerie silence of the fading day, Christopher Lee Watts, a man who seemed to be a picture of normalcy, harbored a darkness that few could comprehend. As the night wore on, the shadows grew longer, and the secrets that Christopher had kept so carefully began to seep into the fabric of reality, leaving behind a trail of destruction that would be impossible to erase. Little did they realize that each word spoken, each breath taken, was a step closer to the abyss, and that the man they trusted implicitly was about to commit a series of heinous crimes that would not only change their lives forever, but also send shockwaves through the entire community. The once tranquil Watts household was now a breeding ground for fear and deceit, as secrets and lies began to fester like a cancerous tumor. With each passing hour, the tension mounted, and the walls of the home seemed to close in on the family, suffocating them with an oppressive sense of dread. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The children, once the bright spots in the otherwise somber home, now lived in constant fear, their innocence stolen away by the man who was supposed to protect them. Christopher's actions grew bolder, his grasp on reality slipping further with each step into the abyss, as he plotted and executed his twisted designs with a cold efficiency that made his victims shudder in silent terror. The eerie silence that settled over the home was punctuated only by the distant chirping of crickets and the occasional creak of an old wooden floorboard. The shadows grew longer, the silence deeper, and the air thick with the stench of lies and despair as the web of deceit and terror continued to weave itself around the Watts family, entangling them all in a Chinese letter of darkness from which there seemed no escape. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. Christopher, with a cold smile playing on his lips, moved methodically through the house, his eyes scanning each room, his mind racing with thoughts of escape and cover-up. He had planned this meticulously, the perfect storm of opportunity and desperation that would lead him to commit the unforgivable. As Christopher worked his way through the house, methodically collecting evidence to ensure his silence, he couldn't help but feel a shiver of excitement at the thought of what was to come. The darkness outside matched the darkness within him, and as he prepared to leave the house, he whispered a silent promise to the void, a promise that he would never be caught, a promise that he would always be free. The family, blissfully unaware of the danger that lurked within their own walls, went about their evening routines, none suspecting that the man they trusted with their lives was about to shatter their world into 1,000 pieces. His hands, steady yet trembling, prepared the tools of his impending destruction, each item a silent witness to the horror that was to come. The family, oblivious to the tempest brewing within their own home, went about their daily routines, unaware of the monstrous plans that Christopher was meticulously plotting. As the night deepened, the shadows grew longer, stretching across the floorboards like the tendrils of a malevolent vine, and Christopher's face, illuminated by the flickering glow of the television, reflected a cold, calculating malevolence that chilled the very air around him. As the moon climbed into the sky, its pale light casting an eerie glow upon the once serene landscape, Christopher Lee Watt's mind raced with thoughts of control and escape. And as the stars began to twinkle above, a silent promise was made to the darkness, a promise that would echo through the years, a solemn reminder of the darkness that can reside within even the most unsuspecting souls. The Watts family, once a beacon of normalcy in the small community, would soon be shrouded in the cloak of tragedy, their lives torn asunder by the hands of a monster they never suspected could lurk within their midst. The children's laughter echoed in his mind like a haunting siren, a reminder of the innocence he had so callously taken. He had meticulously planned each step, ensuring that his victims would be buried in the depths of the desert, far from prying eyes, but his inner turmoil was a ticking time bomb that he could not silence. He knew that his actions would be a game of cat and mouse, a dance with death, but the thrill of the chase, the thrill of the power, was intoxicating, and he found himself drawn deeper into the abyss, unable to resist the pull of his own twisted ambition. Little did he know, the seeds of his own destruction were being sown, and soon, the truth would rise like the phoenix from the ashes. Chinese letter, 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 Chinese letter. In the quiet of the evening, the air thick with anticipation and dread, Christopher's mind was a storm of dark desires, each whispering tales of control and power. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. He had chosen his targets carefully, ensuring that their disappearances would go unnoticed in the bustling city where they lived. Yet as the web of deceit grew ever more tangled, so did the threads of guilt and paranoia, binding him tighter with each new lie. His family, once his sanctuary, now became the stage for a macabre dance of manipulation and fear. With each passing day, the mask he wore grew more cracked, revealing the monster within to those closest to him, until finally, the web of deceit and terror that had been meticulously woven would snap back to consume him, along with the lives he had so ruthlessly destroyed. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a secret life that was anything but, had been meticulously planning his next move, his mind clouded by obsession and a dangerous mix of love and hate. Yet even as he moved closer to his ultimate goal, a sense of dread began to settle in, a gnawing feeling that he was being watched, that his past was catching up to him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. The lives he had taken, the secrets he had kept, they were all intertwined in a twisted tapestry of guilt and fear that would eventually unravel, revealing the truth about the man behind the charming facade. The children, innocent and unaware, played hide and seek in the garden, their laughter echoing through the air like a mocking symphony. As the shadows grew longer and the night deepened, Christopher knew that his fate was sealed, that the weight of his actions would soon become too heavy to bear, and that the consequences would be far more devastating than he could ever have predicted. In the quiet of the evening, the scent of blooming jasmine mingled with the faint rustle of leaves, but it was a false sense of tranquility that cloaked the impending doom. With each meticulously laid plan, he felt a sense of power surge through him, a power that he craved with an insatiable hunger. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. Meanwhile, Christopher, the master of manipulation, plotted his next move, his eyes gleaming with a cold, calculating light. He had chosen his victims carefully, studying their routines, their weaknesses, and their trust in him. The townspeople, who had once looked up to Christopher as a pillar of the community, now lived in a constant state of fear, their lives shadowed by the possibility of what Christopher might do next. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. Yet he clung to his delusions, certain that he could outsmart the law, that he could continue his reign of terror without consequence. But the web was closing in, and soon, Christopher Lee Watts would find that there are no secrets that can withstand the relentless pursuit of justice, no lies that can outlast the truth. Little did they know that the true horror was yet to unfold, for Christopher Lee Watts was a monster in human form, a predator that preyed on the very people he claimed to protect. As the shadows grew longer, the night grew darker, and the web of deceit and terror that Christopher had so carefully woven began to tighten around his own neck, the weight of his actions growing heavier with each passing moment. And when the full extent of his crimes was revealed, the town would be forever changed. The hearts of those who had trusted him would be forever broken, and Christopher Lee Watts would face the ultimate judgment for the monstrous acts he had committed. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a seemingly perfect life, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the foundations of his family and the community he once called home. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. The whispers of his past actions had long been buried, but now they would surface, revealing a trail of destruction and despair. His victims, innocent souls who trusted him with their lives, would become the silent witnesses to his descent into madness. The townspeople, once content with their peaceful existence, would now be haunted by the specter of a killer lurking in their midst. The police, initially skeptical of the whispers, would soon find themselves engulfed in a web of evidence that pointed directly to Christopher Lee Watts. As the investigation unfolded, the truth would slowly unravel, revealing a man who had been meticulously planning his next move, a man who believed he could escape the consequences of his actions. As the shadows lengthened, Christopher's cold eyes glinted with a malevolent purpose, and he moved with a precision that belied his outward calm. But in the end, the web of deceit and terror that Christopher Lee Watts had so carefully constructed would catch him in its own deadly embrace, leaving behind a legacy of horror and a town forever scarred by the shadow of a monster who had once walked among them. He had meticulously planned each step, every detail accounted for, and now it was time to execute his twisted vision. The children, innocent and trusting, played outside while their parents, absorbed in their own worries, failed to notice the ominous changes. Inside, the walls of the Watts family home were thick with the weight of secrets, and soon they would crumble under the weight of truth. The night air grew colder, and with each passing moment, The line between sanity and madness blurred until it was no longer distinguishable. Christopher's hands, once gentle and caring, now trembled with anticipation as he prepared to unleash a storm of violence that would shatter the lives of those he claimed to cherish. His fingers, trembling with a mix of excitement and fear, reached for the keys to the car that would soon transport him to his first unsuspecting victim. In the quiet of the evening, the tension in the air was almost palpable as the family huddled together, unaware of the impending doom that Christopher Lee Watts harbored deep within his soul. The town of Rialto, a place of once serene beauty, now braced itself for the impending chaos. For Christopher Lee Watts was not just a man with a dark past. He was a monster born from the depths of human despair, and his family would become the tragic Chinese letter of his twisted legacy. Little did they know that Christopher's dark past had returned to haunt him, and with it, a trail of destruction that would unravel their lives piece by piece. The children played innocently, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves outside, as the adults discussed mundane matters, completely oblivious to the storm brewing within their midst. As he drove away, the first of many innocent souls would fall victim to his twisted mind, and the true extent of his malevolence would slowly come to light, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and disbelief that would echo through the years to come. He had planned meticulously, the details of each act meticulously thought out, and now it was time to put his plan into motion. The family, blissfully unaware of the danger that loomed over them, continued their evening routines, each one a stark contrast to the impending chaos that Christopher was about to unleash. The night air grew colder, the stars began to twinkle, and the world seemed to hold its breath as Christopher, a man with a smile that could mask the coldest of hearts, prepared to take his first step into a world where lies and murder danced hand in hand. As Christopher reached the master bedroom, he took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest, and with a chilling resolve, he pushed the door open, revealing his unsuspecting victims to the horror that awaited them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The town would never be the same, the once peaceful sanctuary of the Watts family, now a place of darkness and despair, a testament to the unfathomable depths of human cruelty. He moved silently through the house, his every step calculated, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of betrayal or interference. But the house was silent, the family oblivious to the storm that was about to engulf them. He had meticulously planned, each step calculated to ensure his secrets would never surface, but fate had other designs. As the shadows lengthened, Christopher's gaze turned colder, his mind racing with thoughts of control and power, while his family remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within. The truth of Christopher's actions would echo through the years, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the most seemingly ordinary of souls. The townspeople, once close-knit and trusting, now whispered fears and suspicions, their lives forever changed by the revelations that would shake the community to its core. With the first light of dawn, the carefully constructed facade crumbled, and the chilling reality of his actions emerged, shattering the sanctuary into fragments. Behind the walls of their idyllic home, however, a storm brewed, fueled by the darkest desires and a mind that was slipping into the abyss. In the quiet evenings, Christopher's gaze would linger on the pictures of his family, each one a stark reminder of the perfect facade he had cultivated. The Watts family, once a beacon of happiness and stability, now found themselves at the center of a tragedy that would define their existence, and the name Christopher Lee Watts would become synonymous with a horror that would never be forgotten. Little did they know, Christopher's hands were already stained with lies, and the first threads of his treacherous web had begun to tighten around their lives. His wife, Anna, the embodiment of love and innocence, remained blissfully unaware, while his children, too young to comprehend the danger that lurked, played without a care in the world. As the years passed, the weight of his crimes would cast a long and harrowing shadow, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and disbelief that would echo through generations. One fateful night, the carefully constructed facade would shatter, revealing the true extent of his malevolence as he methodically ensnared the souls of those he claimed to cherish, and the town of Bristow would never be the same. The secrets Christopher Lee Watts harbored would slowly unravel, piece by piece, each revelation more shocking than the last, until the truth emerged, raw and unforgiving, a testament to the chilling nature of evil that can take root in the heart of the seemingly innocent. The eerie silence that followed the setting sun was broken only by the rustling leaves and the distant call of a lone owl. But for Christopher, it was the sound of opportunity beckoning. With a twisted smile that never reached his eyes, he plotted meticulously, ensuring every detail was in place as he delved deeper into the abyss of his malevolent desires. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. His fingers, calloused from years of manual labor, now deftly manipulated the strings of his diabolical plan, each twist and turn a step closer to the dark fate that awaited his unsuspecting family. And so, as the night enveloped the Watts family sanctuary, the stage was set for a tragedy that would shake the very core of their community, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and disbelief that would echo through the years to come. The shadows seemed to close in, almost sensing the malevolence that simmered just beneath the surface. And yet, Christopher felt an exhilarating rush, a sense of power that only the pursuit of his twisted ambitions could provide. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The house, once a haven of warmth and laughter, now became a stage for his twisted ballet of destruction, where every movement was calculated, every step deliberate, as he danced closer to the abyss from which there would be no return. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. Christopher Lee Watts was a man with a perfect smile and a deceptive charm, but behind that facade lay a soul twisted by obsession and a thirst for power. He had been planning meticulously, selecting his victims with a calculating precision that was as chilling as it was methodical. Little did they know, the true danger was not outside their home, but lurking within their walls. Each step of his scheme was meticulously thought out, each piece of the puzzle falling into place with a sinister satisfaction. He knew the risks, but he was convinced that his loved ones were safe, shielded by his own cunning and strength. The town of Colorado Springs buzzed with the usual rhythms of life, its residents going about their daily routines, completely oblivious to the evil that was about to unfold. But Christopher Lee Watts was not content to wait for his moment to strike. He was ready, and he was patient. As the days turned into weeks, the shadows grew longer, and the web began to tighten around them, the Watts family blissfully unaware that their lives were about to spiral into a vortex of darkness from which there would be no return. He watched and waited, biding his time, and as the calendar pages turned, the stage was set for the night when everything would change forever. The darkness was coming, and with it, a storm of secrets, lies, and despair that would leave a scar upon the town and the souls of those who had trusted him most. The air grew thick with anticipation, a tangible sense of dread that seemed to seep into the very walls of their cozy home. The stars began to twinkle above, a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy, while Christopher Lee Watts, with a chilling calm, prepared to claim his victims and shatter the lives of the innocent. Little did they know, the facade of normalcy was about to shatter, revealing the chilling truth behind the seemingly perfect family. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, as Christopher's web of deceit grew ever more intricate, ensnaring each member of his family in its deadly grip. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. His victims, unsuspecting and vulnerable, were drawn to him like moths to a flame, unaware of the tragic fate that awaited them. As the truth finally came to light, the community would be left reeling, their trust shattered and their lives forever changed. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The townspeople, once content to live in blissful ignorance, would soon be forced to confront the grim reality of their neighbors' monstrous behavior. The police, initially skeptical of the family's claims, would eventually uncover a trail of evidence that pointed directly to Christopher, a trail that would lead them through a labyrinth of lies and manipulation. In the end, Christopher Lee Watts would be exposed for the monster he truly was, his actions etching a chilling epitaph on the very fabric of their small town, a story that would be told for generations to come, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurk beneath the surface of even the most unsuspecting lives. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a seemingly perfect life, harbored a darkness within that would soon bubble to the surface, shattering the illusion of happiness and normalcy he had meticulously crafted. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. The secrets he kept, the lies he spun, and the manipulations he employed were all part of a meticulously planned scheme that would ultimately lead to the tragic demise of his own family. With each passing day, the web grew tighter, entangling not only his victims but also those closest to him, who had no idea that the man they trusted was a monster in the making. The house, once a haven of warmth and laughter, now felt like a tomb, each creak of the floorboards echoing the horror that was to come. As the shroud of night enveloped the small town, the true extent of Christopher's malevolence came to light, revealing a man who was capable of anything to protect his facade, even if it meant sacrificing the lives of those he claimed to cherish. The whispers of his dark past whispered through the night, reminding him of the secrets he had kept buried deep within, secrets that would soon surface and shatter the fragile facade of his perfect family. The town of Cuyahoga Falls would never be the same, for Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him, a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving and that evil can lurk in the most unsuspecting places. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. As he watched his unsuspecting family settle into their nightly routines, Christopher's mind raced with the details of his meticulously planned acts of betrayal, each step of his plan as calculated as a chess master's move. He knew that once the truth unraveled, the fabric of their lives would be torn apart, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and a trail of destruction that would haunt them for generations. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. Yet in that moment, as the shadows lengthened and the night grew colder, Christopher felt a strange sense of calm, almost a thrill at the thought of the control he would wield over their destinies. The shadows seemed to whisper secrets of the sinister past as Christopher's eyes glowed with a malevolent fire, plotting and planning the perfect heist. Little did he know, the seeds of his destruction were already being sown, and soon, the full weight of his actions would crush him, leaving him to face the consequences of his monstrous deeds in the court of public opinion and the eternal judgment of his own conscience. The family was oblivious to the danger lurking within their own home, their world shrouded in the comforting illusion of safety and love. He moved with silent purpose, the creak of his footsteps a haunting melody in the otherwise still night. In the quiet, he whispered promises to his victims, a siren's call that lured them into a deadly embrace. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. But as the night wore on, Christopher's grip on reality grew ever tighter, his hands clutching the strings of his dark fate with an ironclad resolve. The town, once a beacon of tranquility, would soon be shrouded in the smoke of chaos and despair, the scent of fear mingling with the crisp night air. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. For Christopher Lee Watts was not just a man, but a monster born from the darkness of his own soul, and the monsters always leave a lingering stench of destruction and sorrow in their wake. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. With every meticulous step he took, he delved deeper into an abyss of darkness, ensnaring his family members one by one in a deadly trap that would unravel the very fabric of their lives. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming facade, was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. As secrets and lies intertwined, the truth about Christopher's malevolent nature began to emerge, shaking the foundation of trust within their close-knit community. In the quiet of the night, when the world slumbered, Christopher would plot and scheme, his mind a twisted labyrinth of twisted desires and sickening fantasies. His wife, his children, even his parents, none were immune to the clutches of his malevolence, as Christopher's grip on their lives grew ever more desperate and dangerous. The town would be left in shock, reeling from the revelation of such a monstrous betrayal, while the Watts family would forever bear the weight of a darkness that none could escape. But as the shadows grew longer and the web of deceit began to tighten, the fateful day would come when the truth would surface, shattering the illusion of normalcy and exposing Christopher Lee Watts for the monster he truly was. In the quiet of the evening, the once serene home of the Watts family became a breeding ground for darkness, as Christopher Lee Watts meticulously planned his chilling acts of betrayal. He watched from the shadows, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent light, as he plotted to turn his family's sanctuary into a place of horror. The family dog, a loyal protector, sensed something amiss and barked frantically, but his warnings were ignored. The children, blissfully unaware of the danger lurking within their walls, played outside, their laughter mingling with the eerie silence of the impending doom. He whispered promises of love and loyalty to his unsuspecting victims, all the while preparing the tools of his trade, a collection of knives and rope that would soon be his instruments of destruction. As the night deepened, Christopher's hands trembled with anticipation, the anticipation of the lives he was about to shatter, and the secrets he was about to keep buried beneath the foundation of their home. The story of Christopher Lee Watts was about to unfold, a tale of love turned to hate, trust turned to deceit, and innocence turned to despair. The town of Bakersfield, California, had no idea that the tranquility of its streets was about to be shattered by a man whose name would become synonymous with evil, a man whose twisted mind would soon turn his family into victims of his twisted obsession. The night air grew cold, the stars began to twinkle above, and Christopher, a man who had always appeared so composed, felt a strange sense of urgency, a gnawing at his insides that he couldn't quite explain. The family, unaware of the danger that lurked, enjoyed their evening meal, blissfully unaware that their lives were about to be shattered beyond repair. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. Christopher, however, was fully conscious of the gravity of his actions, the weight of the lies he had been spinning, and the dark secrets he was about to unleash upon them. He had planned meticulously, had chosen the perfect moment, the perfect place, and now, as he stood in the dimly lit kitchen, he could almost hear the ticking clock counting down to the moment when everything would change. He had always been a man of many faces, a chameleon in the shadows, but now his true colors were emerging, and they were as menacing as they were terrifying. In the quiet of the night, Christopher Lee Watts' mind was a whirlwind of dark desires and cold calculations, each thought a thread in the tapestry of destruction he was about to unravel. As he moved silently through the house, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement, he couldn't help but wonder if he had made the right choice, if he was truly capable of such heinous acts, or if he was simply driven by a twisted desire for control and power. Each step he took was a calculated move. Each breath he held a silent vow to erase the evidence of his crimes, to ensure that no one would ever piece together the truth behind the smiling faces that greeted him each morning. Little did he know that the consequences of his actions would ripple far beyond the confines of his home, reaching into the lives of countless others, and leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and despair that would echo through the town for years to come. The sanctuary of the Watts family home, once a haven of warmth and laughter, became a stage for a macabre dance, as Christopher meticulously planned the first in a series of executions that would shake the very foundation of their community. As the darkness deepened, Christopher's heart grew colder still, for he knew that the web he was weaving was not just a threat to his family, but to the very fabric of their lives, and he was determined to weave it so tightly that no one would ever escape its grasp, not even in their wildest dreams. Deeper into the web of deceit and terror he delved, each thread a silent promise of darkness to come. Christopher Lee Watts manipulated his loved ones with a cunning that seemed almost otherworldly. His home, once a beacon of warmth and joy, now echoed with the chilling whispers of secrets that could never be unearthed. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. Children's laughter, once carefree and infectious, was replaced by the hollow sound of a life slowly suffocating under the weight of their father's malevolence. As the days turned into weeks, The Watts family's sanctuary morphed into a labyrinth of lies, with each new revelation shattering their fragile peace and unraveling the very fabric of their existence. And yet, in the shadows, Christopher's grin widened as he reveled in the power he held over those he had vowed to protect, little knowing that the fates of his family were being irreversibly entwined with his own grim destiny. The town that once held them dear would soon learn the chilling truth behind the smiles and the polite exchanges, as the story of Christopher Lee Watts' family murders began to unfold with a chilling precision that would make the very earth tremble under their feet. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man, harbored a dark secret that would unravel the fabric of his seemingly perfect life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. His family, unsuspecting and innocent, were about to be thrust into a nightmare from which there would be no waking. The townspeople, once content with the mundane rhythm of their lives, were oblivious to the sinister undercurrents that were about to flood their community. He was a master of manipulation, a chameleon who could blend into any situation, but as the shadows grew longer, so did the cracks in his carefully constructed facade. He began to isolate himself, surrounding himself with lies and deceit, all while the walls of his carefully constructed prison began to close in. With each passing day, Christopher's grip on reality tightened, his obsession with control and his desire for perfection growing more and more intense. Little did they know that Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. As the days turned into weeks, the web of deceit and terror began to tighten around the Watts family, pulling them further into the abyss of his twisted mind. The once serene sanctuary they called home was now a breeding ground for fear and despair, a place where the shadows of Christopher's past would soon consume the present and dictate the future. With each step he took, he left a trail of destruction in his wake, a prelude to the nightmares that would soon grip his family. The walls of his sanctuary, once filled with laughter and warmth, now seemed to pulse with a dangerous rhythm, as if anticipating the chaos to come. He had meticulously planned, his mind a labyrinth of lies and cunning, but as the shadows lengthened, so did the shadows of his past sins, each one a reminder of the lives he was about to steal. In the quiet of the evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming jasmine, Christopher Lee Watts stood at the threshold of his home, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent fire that had been simmering for years. The town, nestled in the arms of the mountains, knew little of the evil that brewed within the Watts household, but soon the truth would bubble to the surface, shattering the tranquil facade and revealing the chilling reality behind the smiling faces. Children playing in the park, couples strolling on the beach, and the elderly enjoying their twilight years, all of them would be forever altered by the twisted actions of Christopher Lee Watts, whose dark journey had only just begun. The air grew thick with anticipation, a silent, suffocating tension that seemed to hang in the air like a heavy shroud. And as the night deepened, the stars began to twinkle, their light a stark contrast to the darkness that now consumed the lives of the Watts family, a darkness that would cast a long, dark shadow over the community for years to come. The family, oblivious to the storm that was about to engulf them, went about their daily routines, unaware of the danger lurking just beneath the surface. Christopher, a master of manipulation and deceit, had been planning this meticulously, his mind a twisted labyrinth of lies and cunning. He had chosen his targets carefully, each one a person who could be easily manipulated, who would never suspect the darkness that lay within him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. As the days turned into weeks, the web of deceit and terror began to tighten around them, each thread a piece of evidence that would eventually unravel his carefully constructed facade. The family, blissfully unaware, continued to live their lives, their innocence a stark contrast to the evil that was about to consume them. Little did they know that their sanctuary, their home, was about to become the stage for a tragedy that would shake the very foundations of their world. The town, a close-knit community, was about to be torn apart by the revelations that were soon to come, and the name Christopher Lee Watts would become synonymous with horror and despair. The lives of his victims, young and old, would be etched into the annals of history as cautionary tales, while Christopher, the architect of this tragedy, would face the consequences of his actions, a man who had lost his soul to the darkness that had consumed him. He had chosen his victims with a cold precision, each one a pawn in his twisted game of power and control. In the quiet of the evening, as the children played outside, unaware of the impending doom, Christopher's mind raced with a plan that had been meticulously crafted over months of contemplation. As he prepared the scene, he couldn't help but feel a thrill of anticipation, a dangerous cocktail of excitement and fear that fueled his every move. The night air grew colder, the stars began to twinkle, and Christopher's hands trembled slightly as he reached for the tools of his trade. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. With each passing moment, the web of deceit and terror that he had so carefully woven grew tighter, and the lives of the Watts family hung in the delicate balance of his malevolent intent. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The town of Arvada, Colorado, would never be the same, and the legacy of Christopher Lee Watts would be etched into the annals of infamy, a cautionary tale of the darkness that can lurk within even the most seemingly ordinary of souls. The oppressive silence of the evening seemed to amplify the eerie whispers of the wind that danced through the trees, as Christopher, with a cold, calculating mind, plotted his next move. He was a master of manipulation, a chameleon who could blend into the fabric of everyday life, but tonight, his true colors were about to be exposed. Christopher's fingers itched with anticipation as he prepared his tools, his mind a whirlwind of premeditation. And as the night deepened, the stage was set for a tragedy that would rock the very foundations of trust and safety. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The family's idyllic home, once a beacon of warmth and love, now harbored a sinister secret that would shatter the innocence of the children, leave the parents in a state of perpetual mourning, and cast a long, dark shadow over the once peaceful community. As the shadows lengthened, Christopher's grip on reality loosened, and he found himself lost in a twisted labyrinth of his own devising, his eyes gleaming with a malevolent light that made the very air around him seem charged with an ominous energy. The family, oblivious to the storm brewing within, continued their mundane routines, unaware of the impending doom that would soon descend upon them. The Watts family, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to engulf them, went about their daily routines, blissfully unaware of the danger lurking just beneath the surface. A danger that Christopher Lee Watts, with his sinister grin and malevolent eyes, was all too eager to unleash upon the unsuspecting world. Little did they know that the smallest misstep, the faintest whisper, could be the trigger that would unravel the fragile tapestry of their lives. One by one, they would fall prey to Christopher's insatiable hunger for control and power, each tragedy a testament to the depths of human darkness that Christopher Lee Watts was willing to plunge into. The townspeople, who once saw him as a respected figure, would soon learn the truth behind the smiling facade, their shock and disbelief mingling with a sense of dread as they grappled with the horror that had been unleashed upon their once peaceful community. The name Christopher Lee Watts would become synonymous with evil, a specter that would haunt the dreams of countless victims and their families for generations to come. A chilling reminder that even the most seemingly ordinary individuals could be capable of the most heinous acts. The eerie silence of the evening was only broken by the distant howls of coyotes, a haunting reminder of the wildness that lurked just beyond the safety of their home. The weight of his crimes would become a millstone around his neck, dragging him further into the abyss of his own making, and as the years passed, the echoes of his misdeeds would continue to resonate, a chilling symphony of suffering that would never fade into silence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. Christopher, a master of manipulation, had been meticulously planning his betrayal, his eyes gleaming with a cold, calculating light as he mapped out his next move. He had convinced himself that he was above the law, that he could control the lives of others with a mere flick of his wrist, but little did he know that fate had other plans. The web of deceit and terror he was weaving was about to snap, and the strands would ensnare him in a trap from which there was no escape. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. As the first stars began to twinkle in the velvet sky, Christopher Lee Watts stood at the precipice of a dark abyss, the weight of his secrets and his crimes pressing down upon him like a suffocating shroud. The once serene home now felt like a trap, each creak of the floorboards a reminder of the danger lurking within. His family, once a beacon of warmth and joy, had become pawns in his twisted game, and the town of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, would soon learn the true extent of the horror that had been quietly unfolding in the shadows. The night was dark, and the future was uncertain, but for Christopher Lee Watts, the end of his reign of terror was drawing near, and with it, the inevitable justice that awaited him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. Christopher Lee Watts, a man who had always appeared so normal, so harmless, was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The whispers of his past misdeeds began to echo through the corridors of his mind, each one a seed of doubt that would soon grow into a forest of suspicion. He knew that his actions were unforgivable, that the secrets he harbored could destroy everything he held dear, yet he was driven by an insatiable need for power and control. Little did he know that the true horror was just beginning, and that the web of deceit and terror he had so carefully spun would ultimately catch him in its deadly embrace. The Watts family, unsuspecting and unprepared, were about to face the wrath of a man who had been hiding in plain sight, a man who had been plotting their downfall for years. And as the night deepened, Christopher Lee Watts, the architect of this impending disaster, felt a sense of exhilaration that was as intoxicating as it was terrifying. The town of Cuyahoga Falls, a place known for its quiet beauty and close-knit community, was about to be shattered by a tragedy that would shake its very foundation. The evening air grew colder, the stars began to twinkle, and the house seemed to creak and groan with an eerie silence that seemed to whisper secrets long buried. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. Christopher, a man who had always been the epitome of normalcy, now stood at the precipice of madness, his mind a whirlwind of dark desires and twisted thoughts. The family, blissfully unaware, went about their evening routines, unaware of the storm that was about to engulf them. He had been planning this meticulously, his actions a calculated dance with danger, and as the night deepened, the shadows grew longer, stretching across the yard and into the woods beyond. The children played outside, their laughter mingling with the distant howls of the wind, while inside, the adults conversed in hushed tones, oblivious to the storm brewing within their own home. The web of deceit and terror had been carefully constructed, each thread woven with malice and cunning, and now it was time for the web to consume its prey, for Christopher Lee Watts was about to unleash a horror that would shake the very foundation of his world, and the lives of those who trusted him the most. It was a perfect night for a tragedy, a night when the world seemed to align in a sinister fashion, and Christopher Lee Watts, with a cold heart and a mind twisted by years of deceit, was about to pull the strings that would unravel the lives of his family, one by one, until only he remained, a monster in the shadows, a specter haunting the town for years to come. The once peaceful evenings were now filled with the haunting silence of a man consumed by his insatiable desire for power and control. The walls of their cozy home, once a haven of warmth and laughter, now echoed with the eerie whispers of danger. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The children, unaware of the storm brewing within their father's soul, played their games in innocence, blissfully unaware of the darkness that was about to engulf their lives. He plotted meticulously, his mind a labyrinth of twisted thoughts, and as he moved closer to his chilling plan, the fabric of reality began to unravel, revealing a chilling tapestry of deceit and despair. Little did they know that their cheerful laughter would soon be replaced by the anguished cries of the innocent victims, who were about to walk into the snare that Christopher had so carefully laid out. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The town that had known him as a decent family man would soon learn the truth, and the name Christopher Lee Watts would become synonymous with horror, a name that would haunt the nightmares of countless people for generations to come. The cool night air whispered secrets that even the stars dared not speak, as Christopher's fingers traced the outline of a plan that was as cunning as it was chilling. The family, blissfully unaware, continued their daily routines, oblivious to the storm that was about to engulf them. He moved with a precision that belied the chaos within, each step calculated to avoid detection, each breath a silent vow to his twisted vision of perfection. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. but the seeds of destruction had been sown. And as the days turned into weeks, the evidence of Christopher's malevolence began to pile up, a mountain of lies and deceit that would eventually crumble beneath the weight of his own dark desires. And as the truth finally emerged, the Watts family would be left to grapple with the devastating reality of their loss, their sanctuary now a haunting reminder of the evil that had been allowed to thrive in the shadows of their lives. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The town of Colorado Springs, a place known for its serene beauty and friendly residents, would soon be forever changed, its once tranquil streets echoing with the chilling whispers of a man who had forsaken the light for the darkness, a man whose name would become synonymous with horror and despair. It was a quiet evening, the kind that promises tranquility, but Christopher's mind was a whirlwind of malevolence, plotting and planning his next move. The tension in the air was palpable, the air thick with unspoken fears, and as the night wore on, Christopher's heart raced with the thrill of power, the power to control, to manipulate, to destroy. He watched them from the shadows, a predator observing its prey, and he knew that soon the truth would surface. But by then, it would be too late for anyone to escape the clutches of his cunning and cruelty. Little did they know, the seeds of chaos he was sowing would soon bear fruit, and the once peaceful Watts family would be torn apart, their lives shattered by the hand of a monster they never saw coming. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The townspeople, blissfully unaware of the horror lurking in their midst, would soon be forced to confront the chilling reality that Christopher Lee Watts was not the man they thought he was, but a calculating and dangerous criminal whose thirst for control was insatiable. As the web of deceit and terror continued to tighten around them, the Watts family would be the first to feel the weight of Christopher's malevolent intentions, their lives hanging in the balance as the clock ticked down to the inevitable revelation of his true nature. The dark journey of Christopher Lee Watts had only just begun, and the consequences of his actions would be felt for generations to come, a haunting reminder of the fragility of trust and the darkness that can reside within even the most unsuspecting of souls. A web of deceit and terror was slowly being woven, a web that would eventually consume them all. The eerie silence of the night seemed to amplify the creaking of the old wooden floorboards, and the faint scent of lavender from the nearby garden seemed to mock the tranquility that once reigned. He knew that every step he took was calculated, every word he spoke was a lie, and every action he took was a step closer to the abyss. Christopher's eyes, dark and hollow, glinted with a malevolent light as he meticulously planned his next move, a move that would shatter the very fabric of reality for his unsuspecting victims. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Watts family sanctuary, Christopher's sinister intentions began to manifest, and the lives of those he loved most would be irrevocably altered in ways they could never have imagined. For Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a dark journey that would leave a permanent scar on the town and the hearts of those who knew him. The family, blissfully unaware of the danger lurking just beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect lives, continued to live their daily routines, unaware that their worst fears were about to come to life. As Christopher's web of deceit grew ever tighter, the townspeople began to notice strange occurrences, whispers of the supernatural filling the air, and a sense of dread settling over the community. Yet none could have predicted the extent of the horror that was about to unfold, a horror that would test the very limits of human endurance and leave an indelible mark on the history of the town. The night grew colder, the shadows longer, and Christopher Lee Watts, the master weaver of deceit, felt a chilling thrill course through his veins as he prepared to pull the strings that would unravel the lives of his unsuspecting family, forever altering the course of their destinies and leaving behind a legacy of darkness that would be remembered for generations to come.